Ahead, call the meeting to order. Start with a roll call. McKee here, Lanterman. Here. Friedrich.
Present.
Berenkamp.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
All right. Would you like to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Alrighty, agenda approval. Anything from staff? I think one or two things?
Other than the last update that you received, Mayor, we want to remove item 11B from the closed session.
Okay, anything else?
Nothing else.
Anything from council? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, presentations. We have 3 today, and we'll start off with A, which is 5-year award for Officer Josh Lawson. There we go. So I'll just start off reading something about Josh. And Josh worked in retail for 10 years, and then as a correctional officer for Sherburne County, for the Sherburne County Jail before coming to the Corcoran PD on May 24th, 2021. Josh was promoted to K-9 officer in July of 2024. Josh and Rocky started training in August of 2024 and then hit the road in December 2024 together. Josh has a 2-year degree from Ridgewater College, skills at Hennepin Technical College, and a bachelor's degree from Bemidji State. Josh volunteered for his local fire department for 5 years. Josh is married and has 2 kids. His hobbies are spending time with family, hunting, fishing, and traveling. And then we have an award here, and then I have, as is tradition here, some fun facts from when you started. Although I will say, there was not much fun facts in 2021. Start with that. You want to come up here, we can count that. Someone taking pictures?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Congratulations. Thank you. Yeah, some of the fun facts were gas was $3 a gallon. That's more depressing now in retrospect. Most popular song, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. The top movies were Spider-Man No Way Home, Dune, No Time to Die, and Encanto. And let's see here. It was Corella Kaprizov's rookie season. That's about it.
So definitely the best thing of 2021 was
Josh.
Lawson.
Yep.
Josh started here.
So Mayor, then we next want to recognize Officers Lawson and Hoffman, and I will turn it over to Councilmember Lanterman.
Perfect.
Thank you. Tonight it's my honor to recognize 2 members of the Corcoran Police Department for an act of extraordinary courage. In the early morning hours of August 21st, 2025, just after 1:30 a.m., Officers Danny Hoffman and Josh Lawson were dispatched to a home for a report of smoke inside the residence. When they arrived, they did not find smoke. They found a house on fire. In the doorway, Officer Hoffman discovered an unconscious man. He was badly burned and showing signs of smoke inhalation, but he was alive. And Officer Hoffman knew something that turned an already dangerous situation into a far harder one. There was a woman who also lived in the home, and she was unaccounted for. So Officer Hoffman did what few people would. She went into the smoke, into the heat, toward the back bedrooms, searching for anyone who might still be inside. Both officers pushed into the front of the home as well, looking for survivors, until the smoke grew too heavy to go any further safely. Together, they pulled the injured man out of the house and onto the lawn, and Officer Lawson immediately began rendering medical aid. Even then, Officer Hoffman made one more attempt to re-enter the home, to check for others before the conditions made it impossible. Both officers required medical treatment of their own after the incident. What these two did that night was not in any job description in the ordinary sense. They knowingly placed themselves in danger to try to save the lives of people they had never met. That is the very definition of heroism, and it reflects the highest standards of bravery, professionalism, and service to this community. What we saw that night wasn't luck. It was the product of the training, discipline, and culture that the public safety director and his command staff has built in this department. Officer Hoffman, Officer Larson, on behalf of the city of Corcoran and the residents you serve, thank you. It's my privilege to present you each with a city coin in recognition of your courage. I only wish it were a medal because that's what you both deserve. I'd like to invite my colleagues to the front of the dais for photos. Thank you.
That way or
I have
go
no
down?
idea. I'm not-
Let's go down.
The safest route.
Might help if I give you the coin. There you go. Wouldn't want to deprive you of a coin.
They were both recently recognized at the I-94 West Chamber First Responder Luncheon as well. So thank you so much.
Okay, and then on to presentation number C. Presentation C, which is our Civic Campus project video.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, so staff has been working with consultant Kraus Anderson to release a series of videos for the Civic Campus project, and I'm happy to share that we have the next video here for you to watch. This one is focused on the history of Corcoran.
So really fun history into here in the city of Corcoran. City operations moved to a schoolhouse on Kane Road, and they operated out of that schoolhouse. We believe it was sometime in the 60s, operated that way until roughly 1993, 1994. They recognized that it was too cramped and it wasn't working. And so through collaborative partnership with the JCs and other partners in the city, they acquired the land where the City Hall currently is, and it was completed in 1994. We were a very agrarian, rural community, and now we're adding homes, and that requires intentional engineering involved, coordination and collaboration, ensuring that ordinances and codes are being met. Those people need places to work in order to do that work, to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to grow the community intentionally.
We have a lot more paved roads. We have more traditional neighborhoods. That's put an increase on the city, whether it's engineering or the police department. We have more computers, we have body cameras now. So that technology takes more and more space and more people to upkeep that technology.
We need to think about what Corcoran's going to become and plan for a facility that is going to meet the needs of what Corcoran will be. And so we have present needs, but we also have future needs. And we need to think about those to ensure that we build it the right size for today and we're ready for tomorrow.
So this is the first of, right now, it looks like 3 videos that they're working towards.
Yeah, it's the second.
Second of 4? Well, that's right.
I did
You
one.
did the first one.
Yeah.
My apologies.
No worries.
So there's 2 more that are due out. They've done the B-roll footage, and they're working on getting those together. So this one's right on schedule to release tomorrow, and then the next one will release later in July.
Sounds good. Good job. Okay, then we'll move on to open forum. Jay, if you want to walk us through that, and I believe we have a couple at least cards in.
So all the cards that I have for other items, so that for the open forum,
You're right.
if you wanted to fill out a card and bring it to me, and then if you have anything that you want to talk about that is not on the agenda, this would be the opportunity to talk about that for 3 to 5 minutes. Speak to the dais about an item that is not on the agenda. I have not received any cards at this point for items not on the agenda.
Sounds good. If you want to fill out a card and get it to Deb for the agenda item ahead of that agenda item, that'd be great. But other than that, we'll go past open forum. Now on to consent agenda, which consists of items 6A through 6P. Does anyone want to pull anything? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6P.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. On to planning. We have a sketch plan review for Oswald Business Park at 19510 County Road 30. And I will pass it over to Dwight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, item 8A tonight is the Oswald Business Park Concept Plan. This is a request from Hempel Development, and they're wishing to solicit feedback from the council on their conceptual business park prior to proceeding with the required environmental review and formal submittal for the development. The concept includes dividing the site into the western 2/3, which would be developed into the 5 business park, the 6 business park buildings, and then the eastern third would be, it would remain with the Oswald family and would be developed at a future point in time. So this is just a larger image of the concept plan, just for reference. The site itself is guided and zoned for business park uses. This is the only parcel in the city that is guided and zoned for this type of use. It is located in the Northeast District, which is subject to the Northeast District planning requirements, and is located in Phase 1 of the 2040 sewer staging plan, meaning sewer and water are available upon development. Council previously reviewed a concept plan for this site from United Properties back in 2024, and the applicant's narrative describes how the current proposal addresses some of the concerns and questions that were raised with those previous reviews. The site itself is just shy of 81 acres, and that western 2/3 is about 47 acres in total, and that eastern third that would remain undeveloped for the near future would be about 26.5 acres. That western portion of the site would be divided into 5 lots and 2 outlots, and each building would be on its own lot with the related parking and loading areas to serve it. The plan does show a drive aisle along the shared lot lines between buildings 1 and 2 and buildings 3 and 4, and buildings range in size between 90,000 square feet and 169,000 square feet. Also included within the application is 60 truck docks across all 5 buildings, and 833 parking stalls, stormwater ponding, a public plaza, and a trail along the northeastern and northern sides of the site. So again, the site is zoned business park, and the applicant intends to apply for approval of a business park development under standard zoning and plating processes, so not going through the planned unit development process, just standard plating. The business park district itself is intended to provide for campus developments with a variety of office, low-impact manufacturing, or assembly of a variety of products that create no exterior noise, glare, or fumes. Business Park does not allow for warehousing / distribution and indoor storage as principal uses. Warehousing may be allowed if it's in conjunction with the office or use on the site, but if that is the main use, that is not allowed within the Business Park District. So just defining warehousing / distribution, it is an industry that comprises establishments primarily engaged in operating merchandise warehousing and storage facilities. These establishments generally handle goods in containers such as boxes, barrels, and or drums using equipment such as forklifts, pallets, and racks. They are not specialized in handling bulk products of any particular type, size, or quantity of goods or products. So again, the applicant reviewed a previous concept plan for the Business Park District and provided a narrative detailing how their current concept plan would address some of those concerns that were raised at that time. These include a reduction in the building height from what's allowed in code at 40 feet to a 20-foot clear height across the entire campus, 60 dock doors across all 5 buildings, and reducing the building depth to 180 feet with the exception of Building 5, which would be deeper to provide some flexibility to the tenants who may need that deeper space. They are also prohibiting uses such as bulk distribution and high cube logistics. So these items are really intended to discourage potential warehouse distribution users from being interested in the site and to attract more users that would be aligned with the intention of the Business Park District itself. The applicant is also planning to include landscaping and screening through continuous berming along County Road 30 and County Road 116, and that would complete screening of all loading and service areas from the right-of-way. And they are also planning to install a public plaza that would be integrated with the Diamond Lake Regional Trail System. The parking.
Can you say the last part again?
Sorry, the applicant is planning to install a public plaza as part of the requirements of the Northeast District standards, and that plaza would be located in a location that would be connected to the Diamond Lake Regional Trail.
Thank you.
So the development would need to meet the minimum parking lot setbacks of the zoning ordinance. That's 100 feet from major roadways, or that could be reduced to 50 feet through additional landscaping, 50 feet from all other streets, 10 feet from side property lines unless it's along a shared property line, and 10 feet from a rear property line. The applicant is proposing a 50-foot front yard setback for the parking lots with the increased landscaping. So for reference, that's 1 overstory deciduous tree, 1 overstory coniferous tree, 2 ornamental trees, and 10 understory shrubs per 100 feet of setback flexibility. The parking lots are also set back less than 50 feet from the other streets. So the current.
Sorry, there might be a typo there. For 100 feet of frontage, rather than feet of setback flexibility, isn't like a density requirement for how many plantings there would be per 100 feet?
It would be, yeah, number of plantings for the length of the parking lot that is within 100 feet from County Road 116 or County Road 30.
I understand. Thank you.
So the parking lot would not meet the front setbacks for the local streets, so the applicant would need to either revise the plans to meet that 50-foot setback or apply for a variance from the standard. So through the council's discussion and feedback to the applicant, they may wish to provide some feedback on that potential variance request. Additionally, the side setback for the parking lot is less than 10 feet, but that is allowed for common lot lines, provided that the impervious surface area of those sites don't exceed 60%. So under the current concept plan, there wasn't enough information to verify compliance with that standard, so any formal submittal would need to confirm what that impervious surface limit is on those sites. The number of parking stalls for the development would vary depending on the actual gross square footage of the users of the buildings. So since the buildings can be used for different particular uses, office or maybe light manufacturing or things of that nature, the parking formula may vary. So at this point, end users haven't been identified, but with a formal submittal, the applicant may need to make some assumptions on what the potential users would be to ensure that there would be adequate parking provided for the development. A small side note is that the Northeast District does require bike racks to be installed, and the current concept plan doesn't include that, so a formal submittal would just have to include bike racks to be compliant with that standard. Parking bays are required to have landscape islands at each end, and parking bays exceeding 15 stalls in length are also required to be broken up with landscape islands. And the applicant's plan does appear to meet that standard.
Excuse me, Dwight. Hey, folks, please. There's a presentation. We'd rather hear from him than the voices in the background. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
So off-street loading areas are prohibited in areas within 300 feet of residentially zoned or guided property unless they're screened by an intervening building. So looking at the concept plan, the loading areas on buildings 3 and 4, which is shown on that top image, appear to be within 300 feet of the residential property to the north and not fully screened by that building. So the applicant would be required, if they were to proceed with a formal submittal, they would be required to provide a wing wall for screening or apply for a variance from the standard. Additionally, loading docks in the Northeast District must be oriented away from county roads and residential property wherever reasonable, as determined by the city. If there is no reasonable method of orienting them away from the right-of-way or from neighboring properties, then the overhead doors that are visible would need to be screened by 80% opacity year-round landscaping consistent with the landscaping section in the zoning ordinance. So in applying that to this concept plan, loading areas on lots 3 and 4 do not appear to be screened from those residential properties. However, loading areas on lots 1 and 2 appear that they may be screened from County Road 116, but additional information on the type of trees and the quantity of trees that are screening those buildings would need to be included in that formal submittal. Going into just the landscaping requirements overall for a project of this type, it would require 1 overstory tree per 1,000 square feet of gross building floor area, or 1 tree per 50 linear feet of site perimeter, whichever is greater, and 1 overstory shrub for each 300 square feet of building, or 1 understory shrub per 50 linear feet of the perimeter, whichever is greater. The concept plan didn't provide enough information for staff to determine whether the gross building floor area or site perimeter is greater, so that would also need to be included with a formal submittal. And it's worth noting that each lot would need to individually meet this standard for landscaping, not the entire site as a whole, but each individual lot would need to meet that standard. So this may be difficult with some of the lots that have little open space, but future submittals should show how compliance can be met with this standard. Additionally, the city does have a buffer yard requirement for more intensive uses that are abutting less intensive uses. So for a project of this type, a buffer yard class D is required along the north and south sides of the site. And I apologize that that table is getting cut off on the projection, but that table to the right is what a buffer yard D class would be able to look like. And the text is also super small, so I apologize for that. I can, after I go through the presentation, I can go back and increase the font there. So in total, the amount of landscaping that would be required for this project would be the base landscaping that was discussed in the previous slide, the additional landscaping to allow the 50-foot setback along County Road 30 that was the parking that Councilor Nichols had a question about, and then the buffer yard landscaping to the north and the south. City code does allow for a waiver for the buffer yard requirements if properties are separated through a major road like a county road. And in this case, with the amount of landscaping that's already being required on the site as a whole, Staff does find that this may be an appropriate opportunity to waive the buffer yard requirement along County Road 30, but council should provide some feedback to the applicant on this waiver. Additionally, much of the buffer area to the north is provided as ponding. City code states that stormwater ponds and bioretention ponds are allowed in the perimeter setback and may encroach a maximum of 10 feet into the required buffer yards. In these scenarios, though, easements shall be required over the buffer yards to protect it in perpetuity. The proposed pond encroaches more than 10 feet into the required buffer yard along the north property line, and the applicant should either revise the plan or comply with the standard, revise the plan to comply with the standard or apply for a variance from that standard. The Northeast District Plan identifies access locations onto county roads, especially County Road 116, County Road 30, and County Road 101. All of these intersection locations were conceptually approved by Hennepin County when the plan was adopted back in 2022. But ultimately, they will have permitting authority and will be involved in what those conversations look like for design and things of that nature. So the street plan for the concept shows 4 public street access points to the site. These generally comply with these connections. However, the connection to the east should be adjusted to align with the connection to the Springs of Corcoran plan on the property to the east there. But the concept plan is showing a right-in, right-out connection onto County Road 116, which is consistent with what's shown in the Northeast District Plan. And they are also showing a full intersection on County Road 30. And this was conceptually approved by Hennepin County with the Northeast District Plan. But a feasibility study will be needed to examine the level of service at that intersection, and that study will help guide access control conversations and intersection design conversations with the county. Park dedication for a project such as this would require 4% of net pre-development area or market equivalent in cash. At this time, net acreage is not available, so final plat submittal would require the applicant to provide net acreage for this calculation. Additionally, the 2040 Parks and Trails map identifies a proposed off-road trail along the length of the western property line. This trail would be part of the Diamond Lake Regional Trail System, and the applicant is showing that trail. I can get it with my laser pointer here. This trail would pick up where that trail underpass is located with the Hope Meadows development and run along the eastern side of that stormwater pond, and then along the south side of the pond, between the pond and the buildings, before ultimately stubbing out to a potential future trail that would connect to the existing Diamond Lake Trail that's existing in Bellwether today.
Dwight, you aren't saying that right there where the dot is, that's not where the under trail is. That was,
It's not where the what?
you said an under trail.
Sorry, the underpass is on the west side.
116.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So Three Rivers Park District did review the proposal and provided some comments on the turning radius, grading around the trail, and just overall drainage. So with a formal submittal, the applicant will be required to work with the city and the Three Rivers Park District to ensure that there's adequate space for the underpass and that the trail design standards of the park district are met. Additionally, the Northeast District Plan requires all non-residential properties with a principal building in excess of 100,000 square feet of floor area to have a public plaza space. Public plaza spaces include benches, bike racks, trash receptacles, lighting fixtures, and other amenities that would create a welcoming space for tenants of the building and members of the general public. 3 of the buildings in this proposal would meet this threshold. And the applicant's plan currently shows 1 public plaza that's along the trail, and then 3 employee amenity areas that are near the buildings themselves. So through council's discussions, they may want to wish to provide some feedback on whether or not the employee amenity spaces would meet the intention of the public plaza requirements of the Northeast District. And there isn't fully detailed plans of what those plazas look like at this point in time. So maybe that's another item of discussion for the council to the applicant. The environmental assessment worksheet threshold for a development of this nature is 300,000 square feet. And since this project exceeds this threshold, no formal development application may be approved until the EAW is complete. An EAW is not meant to approve or deny a project, but act as a source of information to guide approval and permitting decisions. So if the council supports the concept plan before you, the applicant has stated that they intend to begin the EAW process immediately. So in summary, the concept plan is generally consistent with the standards of the Business Park District. However, additional information is needed to show compliance with the zoning ordinance and Northeast District requirements, and there are a few areas of potential revisions just to fine-tune it and bring it into compliance with what the standards are. So the next steps for the applicant at this point, depending on the feedback from the council, would be completion of the EAW, and then an application for a preliminary plat and site plan approval, and any potential variances that they aren't able to address with the revisions, and then an application for a final plat and development contract approval. So a few discussion points for the council just to consider is whether or not they are supportive of the application as presented. The council may also want to provide some direction on whether the buffer yard requirements can be waived along County Road 30, and does the concept plan meet the intent of the plaza requirements of the Northeast District?
Okay. Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
Any questions for Dwight or discussion? Topics among council, otherwise we can hear from the applicant and then from, I think we have a few cards.
I have comments, but I can wait until the applicant speaks.
Okay.
Or I can go for, it doesn't matter to me.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Real quick question to wait. You had mentioned the buffers are in perpetuity. How do we as a city make sure that remains in place? Like, how do we ensure, because we don't have our code compliance is complaint-based. So how do we ensure that is actually staying enforced and in place?
So they would be part of an easement, and there would be agreements that would require that those buffer yards be upkept and they aren't clear-cut or removed. So if that's something that occurs, then that would be something that the city would receive notice of and then inspect and confirm compliance.
Would we do like annual or biannual inspections to make sure that these are staying compliant? Like, how do we track that once we approve it?
So it would enter into a landscape warranty period. So that is to ensure that the plantings are planted correctly and then established. So typically that's, once everything's planted correctly, then it's a 1-year warranty period. Sometimes, things die off before we can actually start the warranty period. So a lot of times the plantings are 2 to 3 years old before the landscape warranty period even starts. And from that point, generally, we see compliance. Granted, the buffer yard ordinance is fairly new, so there's been a lot of opportunities for people to deviate from it. But once they're established, we find that it's unlikely for landowners to be clear cutting them. But that's something that we can talk with council about. If you guys want to conduct proactive inspections of that, we can talk about that and talk about staff capacity in that nature.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be my only comment is currently we are compliant or a complaint-based code enforcement because of capacity, and so if there was a desire, that would be a service that would require more staffing.
I'd also say complaint-based can also consist of council or commissioners or
Right.
anyone.
Yep. I often complain, right, Jay? Yes, sir.
You've got issues.
Mark, I guess I'll leave it up to you. I don't know the nature of your,
Let's hear from the applicant,
Okay.
and then I'll offer my comments.
and then we'll go to residents after that.
If that's what you'd like to do, sir.
Works for me.
Thank you, Mayor McKee, member of the First off, I just want to say I appreciate the partnership we've had with the city. It was about a year ago that I was in front of you guys on our Brockton Business Park, which we are successfully completing construction of this week, and we're 100% leased and starting the second building next week. So, a lot of good momentum on that project, and we're hopeful with, hopefully with your support. I know there's a lot of residents that have a lot to discuss tonight, but we're hoping to continue that momentum here at the Oswald Business Park as well. I don't need to repeat all of the details that Dwight just went through. I'm really here tonight to discuss the plan with you guys, hear the residents' concerns, address those concerns. I will say that the plan that we put in front of you guys was well thought out, and that we looked at the previous concept plan that was presented in 2024 and tried to address resident concerns, council concerns with that plan. I'm happy to get into the specifics of how we did that, or I think I did that in the narrative, but I can talk about that if you guys want me to. But other than that, we know that there's a lot of details and other kind of formal elements that need to be incorporated into an actual application, and those will all be addressed in a formal application. But tonight, I think we're trying to see if we have at least positive momentum with the plan that's been presented, and take any of your comments and concerns into question, or take any of your comments under consideration and revise the plan to address those in a formal application.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant, and then Mark?
I have two.
Go for it.
I believe you're a different group than presented in 2024. Can you confirm that for the audience? So this is a different proposal, different outfit. And the way that Hempel operates, do you typically retain ownership of these projects after they're completed, or do you typically find an investor to purchase them?
I would say it varies by project, but our company owns just over 5 million square feet of real estate right now, so we like to think like long-term owners, and we like to develop as though we're going to own it long-term. That being said, there are times we build projects and get offers from others that want to acquire it, and sometimes those offers are too good to turn down, I guess I would say. But for the most part, we'd like to go into projects with the intent of long-term ownership.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now.
All right, anyone else?
Yes, I have one question. What types of businesses do you see in that facility?
Well, a great example would be PHS West, which is a tenant. I don't know if everyone's familiar, but it was the first tenant to go into our Brockton Business Park. They're a manufacturing company. They do a lot in the medical device field. They do a lot of electrical infrastructure, and they are 91,000 foot tenant. They're about 60,000 feet of that is office and manufacturing space. The rest of it is storage for raw materials and product. But that's the type of company that I think would have been a perfect candidate for one of these buildings. Quite frankly, what we built at Brockton, I would say it was much closer to what the previous concept plan that was proposed for this business, for this location was. And that's 32-foot clear building, geared primarily towards companies that are looking to store product or move product. And PHS West, that's not what their primary business is. They're a manufacturing company, they're an office company. And because there was just no great available space for them, I'm not trying to undersell the building that we built at Brockton, but it just wasn't a great fit for what they really were looking for. But because it was the only thing available, they took it. But I believe if we had built this project or had a 100,000 foot building available for them, they would have easily taken one of these buildings. So it's companies that are going to be geared primarily towards manufacturing. Obviously, with a manufacturing tenant, you may have an office component where you've got your accounting staff and your finance staff and sales and others, and then you've got your manufacturing where the product is being made, and then you've got a section that, as I mentioned, takes in raw materials that get converted into something, and then obviously those materials have to mostly like a small office, shipping, receiving office, and then storage of a lot of products. There's a lot of warehouse employees in there, but they're not typically making something in that type of space. So we're not designing these buildings to attract those types of tenants.
Okay, thank you.
If I can, the one on Brockton, the building on Brockton is 30, how tall?
32 foot clear to the bottom of the rafters.
And then this is 28,
Correct.
if I remember right.
Maximum, yeah.
Okay.
24 to 28.
Do you have other facilities or developments like this in the Twin Cities? You said 5 million square feet.
Yep.
Is there one close?
Yes, we've developed a number of business parks that I would say are close to the type of project we're looking to do here. There's a number of buildings at 610 and 169 on the south side of 610. There's a Tesla facility, Minneapolis Glass, Marmon Technologies, Worth Adams, Nilfisk Advance.
Right.
Those are all big manufacturing companies, and those are the types of the types of tenants that I think would be interested here. They all, as I mentioned, have an office, manufacturing, and a warehouse component combined.
It's extremely similar to a development that I go and visit and pick up my raw materials for my business over in Blaine. Eagle Brook Church is part of it, and I'm not sure, it looks almost exactly like it. And
That-
if it is one of those that you guys have done, that's,
Yes, so that actually, the development you're talking about is called Blaine Preserve Business Park.
Reserve, yes.
I developed that about 13 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, at my previous firm. So we actually developed that business park.
It looks uncanny, and me being the way I am, I'm always comparing what is out there and such, so.
Yep, and those are 24 and 28 foot clear buildings.
You know, I love the fact that you guys have moved or are hoping to move that trail from the north side of the property to in between the pond and the buildings kind of deal. I love the fact that there is going to be a limited 60 bays in the 5 buildings combined.
Yep,
How
the
are you
dock
gonna-
to square foot ratio.
Yeah,
Yep.
you're gonna be able to do that with a calculation like that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, the types of again, kind of going back to the comparison between like a distribution type of, bulk warehouse distribution type of building, you would typically want one dock per every maybe 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. You know, here we're targeting one dock every 10 to 20,000 square feet, with this ratio that we're proposing. So there may be a company that needs a little bit more, but there might be a company that, needs 2 docks. There might be a company that needs 10.
it's more of what I was looking at when the previous concept plan came, and you spent a lot of time and attention to the detail from the neighbors and concerns at that meeting and their concerns up here and such, so thank you very much.
Michelle,
One concern I had was where the trail was located in relation to our Bellwether community. And I think this might not be a discussion for this, but I have a question about the map that was in the packet. Figure 3 concept plan, is that road that's coming just above would be the northeast side? Is that Mulberry? Is that an extension from Mulberry?
this one.
I
Yeah.
believe that is the extension to Mulberry. I'm just gonna pull up the GIS right now, just to
Oh,
make sure I
okay.
have the name correct, but
Yep.
that should be Mulberry.
So,
I'm sorry.
I guess the concern of mine would be, why do we need to have that extension come in there when we have a road coming off of 30 and also off of 116?
Yeah, so as part of the Bellwether development, when it was initially approved, it was approved with a number of future stub streets that were always intended to connect to really flesh out that internal road network. So this is building off of that, since Mulberry Lane was always intended to be a through street and connect to a broader internal road network. That's what this concept plan is showing, is a connection there. That's something that could be looked at through the feasibility study, just to understand what the traffic patterns are and where cars are coming in and out for the development.
Just because that is a community that's a pretty tight community as far as housing goes, I would hate to see additional traffic come into that park with the traffic that's already in that development. So, to me, I think from what I've learned from being here and also on council, is I feel like we have a lot of pass-through traffic that comes through Corcoran, and I feel like we have to find a way to start limiting that pass-through traffic. And I'm afraid what's going to happen is when Hunter's Ridge is completed, that's going to be a bypass to get through on County Road 30, because County Road 30 is so heavy with traffic right now.
Coming from where?
Coming off of, like if they go down to Hunter's Ridge, which would be just going north, it would be the next right you could take, and then it would connect with Mulberry.
So you're worried about someone?
Yeah, bypassing and taking a left rather than going on County Road 30 to bypass and come through Mulberry to get ahead of the traffic.
Also with that note, Mayor and Council, to Dwight's point, the traffic feasibility study will look at those concerns and
Okay.
with that note. But there's also some public safety concerns that need to be considered in terms of access to that part of the neighborhood and access as it develops to the east. And so the feasibility study will flush those sorts of issues out, and that note has been taken as a concern. And I suspect we might hear from more residents have a similar
Okay.
concern.
Yeah, just to chime in, I agree with Michelle's point. I think from an access perspective, once Bellwether connects through Hunters, I don't know that they're going to need another access to the south. And in light of, I've complained for my entire term, we're not great in the comp plan about creating intentional step downs of intensity as we go from commercial to residential, and this is one of those examples where we have a business park immediately adjacent to low density residential. We adopted a policy in 2020, 2021 for the buffer yards, which I think were helpful, but the road network was really never considered as part of those adjustments. So in this case, I think it's good that we intentionally plan to have a road network in this part of the city. I don't see a vital need for this particular connection to exist, given all of the other connections that exist for both of these developments independently. So I'd be very open to an adjustment, either making this an emergency access only or removing that connection altogether in favor of a one-way.
A cul-de-sac or something there, so it doesn't even go into that development. It just ends within that neighborhood, if that's even possible. I don't
Or a
know.
one-way potentially, so you have traffic.
I would not even want to see a one-way.
Okay.
I think the traffic feasibility study will be a big part of it in how they design those intersections. So as you look at the access, depending on how it's designed or improved, there would likely be a delay or a queue as people try and get onto 30. I think traveling to the intersection that's managed with stoplights is still going to be the most efficient for residents. What sometimes those connections can do is actually present an outlet for the neighborhoods, so you have less of the inner circulation from the existing neighborhood traffic. Right now, we experience that with Hunter's Ridge not connected, that all of the traffic is directed back out through primary. This would present some neighborhood relief, depending on if they have the option to leave this. Primarily the traffic, I would assume, for this development is not going to be, there will be intentionally avoiding residential roadways. And so I think really that traffic feasibility by engineering and how they design the road will have a big impact on how the traffic flows, the ingress and egress. But also presenting an outlet to the neighborhood, I think would be helpful to keep the neighborhood, letting the neighborhood traffic exit the neighborhood in an easier manner.
So you're supporting that goes through as a cross street? Is that what you're saying?
I would support what the traffic feasibility study
Okay.
says in how the engineers recommend we design that, because they will take a lot of that into account. Right, we always, with new developments, we typically always see the ideas of what the new traffic is without considering how it would impact existing
Sure.
traffic as well. So I think
Do they take into consideration in those studies what the city's goals are related to like our cross-through traffic that comes, like Trail Haven. If we had had the foresight back whenever Trail Haven was established to not have that be a through road, we wouldn't be having the discussions that we have now about Trail Haven. So looking at that and trying to determine where our city is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years, I think we need to be better and really diligent about determining how those look and making sure we're stopping. Like I was out last weekend doing some door knocking, and there were so many cul-de-sacs in that new development that just went in behind Hy-Vee, where it would just end, and you'd have to do a circle, and you'd come back out to a main road then to get out of that development.
Yeah, I think, to that point specifically, if Trail Haven wasn't a through road, the city would have had to build a different road that was a through road. It was designed as a throughfare. It just happened to not have the level of traffic that it does today because our community didn't experience that level of traffic. So, yes, I think they do take that into account as to what the visions and the thoroughfares are. That's a big reason for the comp plan, and I'm getting a little bit into the planning and engineering world, so it's like, Kevin, please feel free to a lot of that is designed that putting traffic on roads, and it's not always popular, but we have to have them for the egress. And Steep Road is another one that was designed to get traffic removed from the neighborhoods, because as we get the traffic out of the neighborhoods, it's on the roads that are designed for is the goal.
I agree. I think that that's good that we have those main roads like that, but I think within our developments, on some of those smaller roads, for example, like Mulberry, I don't think that we're so focused on, we've always had this road in place and this is what we should do. I think we need to take a look at that again and just decide, is this really what's best as our city continues to grow? That's all I would like to.
Figure 2, Dwight. It shows a more full view of the network.
Yeah, if you look at it too, and I've had conversations with Kevin, the engineering, and everybody else, this development, Bellwether and Amberley has one exit on the Steep. Bellwether has lived with 2 exits, one on the Steep and one on the 101. This neighborhood was designed to have 7 entrances. And looking at the overhead and the map and stuff, I think they were pretty well thought out based off of neighboring communities and everything else. And the number of calls and issues we had with not having Hunter's Ridge as long as it's been, and the time I put in to try and keep it locked down as long as possible. And the agreement that was made by that neighborhood and everything else, it's there. But we had people driving through signs that said future road. They didn't want to wait for the future, they wanted it now. All of these roads, the designs are there and stuff. Besides engineering, public safety also needs to be there too, because right now, a fire truck trying to get into Bellwether and get back to those cul-de-sacs and then get back to those dead ends and stuff, that's, in my mind, that's not something that I think we should dig too deeply in, if that makes sense. I think that if you look at the overhead and just looking at the map in front of us and stuff, it flows well, but everybody that lives on the end of those cul-de-sacs, none of them want anything, but I'm quite certain their purchase agreements, that is going to be a through street. That's one of the things that people understood and agreed to. So we do need to be responsible, and I've been in a community where there was a lot of dead ends and cul-de-sacs and stuff, and then when there was a fire, people started complaining that, why couldn't the fire department get there sooner?
I think the traffic study will.
Yeah, the traffic study will shake
Give
it
us
out.
a lot more info to be able to make an informed decision on that or call on that. One really in the weeds kind of down the road thing that I just wanted to mention before I forget, if there's support and it progresses, if it's possible to work with both potentially Continental on the site to the east and the landowners, the Oswalds, on making sure that there's a kind of continuous buffer. I know on the plans for the Continental site on the northeast corner, there's kind of a berm and some buffer along the trail, and I know there's a concern from some residents that that would not be continued on
it is, but I drove through there. And it's supposed to be a road that goes into the Continental development. And that's another example where I think
102nd place.
the 102nd, where I think that would be a better location because it goes into a parking lot, basically on Continental side. That it would be better to have that as a cul-de-sac and have the through road still be, I think it's Elm Creek, Elm something.
Elm Lane is
Elm
the
Lane.
cul-de-sac
That goes
right
all the
now.
way across. That's the cul-de-sac?
Yep.
Okay, it's not that one then, because this one runs all the way across to 30 eventually. It isn't there yet.
And I was talking more about the trail that goes
Yes,
along
yeah.
the north there.
I would support that.
A way to try to coordinate all that would be amazing.
If I could make one more comment, I did receive an email, Mr. Mayor, adjacent to this, but the timing was uncanny, from Mr. Steve Hohag from the Snowmobile Trails Organization. And so they do have an interest, and they say thank you to the Oswalds who have continued to support that being able to go through the property. But as Continental is coming in and as this is coming in, there was questions which I said I can't answer. Is there a possibility, on the south side to continue to allow access? And as council has expressed a desire to continue to support those types of activities, how does that get incorporated within the design in order to facilitate that? I don't know, I'm not a planner, but that has been communicated by something that council, we do carry the grant that built that trail, and have been doing that for 35 years. So.
It'd be nice to figure out a way if there is.
Yeah.
I'm not that type of designer or mind. I can't see it offhand initially where it would go, but if possible, yeah. I think that'd be a benefit for sure.
It might be good to get a connection with landscape designers to figure it out based on the buffering and screening requirements and the more intense landscaping on that southern side. Is there a route through there for a snowmobile trail in the winter?
My landscape designer's here if you want to ask him that.
Great.
But he says yes, there's a way to do it.
Thank you. To the applicant's credit, this concept does answer the council's 2024 concerns. Lower height, fewer docks, less depth, more parking. I'll acknowledge that. But answering those concerns isn't the same as resolving them. And the burden here is the applicant's responsibility, not ours. My core question is unchanged. My core question is unchanged. Is this truly a business park use, or could it operate as warehousing or distribution? As Dwight mentioned tonight, City Code Section 1040.120 does not permit warehousing or distribution as a principal use in the business park district. And the applicant's own narrative concedes the prior plan didn't function as a business park, quote, regardless of how it was labeled. That's exactly right. The test is function, not a label, not a made-up name tag. And on this record, the function is not established. Several features cut the other way. We have 5 large buildings, 583,000 square feet, roughly 60 loading dock doors, and no identified end users. The exact type of profile that drifts towards distribution once tenants start signing leases. Building 5 is the clearest example. The applicant says 24 to 28 foot heights and 180 foot depths, quote, structurally eliminate bulk distribution, and then exempts building 5 at 260 feet deep and 169,000 square feet, which by their own 2024 table is distribution depth. The staff report's stated range, 90,000 to 117,000 square feet, appears to omit it entirely. I'd like that corrected because the largest building is the one their own argument doesn't cover. And the comments meant to reassure us aren't enforceable as written. Quote, approximately 60 doors, standards as currently designed, thresholds to be finalized, and the dock to square foot ratio that's supposed to bar distribution is never actually stated. The numbers that matter are blank. This matters most because of where the site sits. It abuts homes on the north, and our code treats that adjacency as significant. Section 1060.060 subdivision 3B9 prohibits off-street loading areas within 300 feet of residentially guided property unless screened by an intervening building, and staff finds the loading on lots 3 and 4 falls within that 300 feet and is not fully screened. A buffer yard D is required along that same north line. A use that operates as distribution makes every one of those harder to meet. The use question and the neighborhood impact question are the same question. I'm not going to hand the applicant a checklist tonight. The burden is theirs to show this is a business park use. It isn't ours to design the fix. I'll say only what the word enforceable would have to mean. Use restrictions recorded against the land, running with the title, binding on future owners and tenants, and verified at each certificate of occupancy. Voluntary ranges in a narrative aren't that. This is our only business park guided parcel, and the tax base and jobs goals behind it are real, which is exactly why the use has to actually be business park, not distribution wearing a fake business park name tag, and especially not against homes. On the record as it stands, that hasn't been shown, and I cannot support moving it forward on the current commitments. I'll reserve the balance of my code comments for the formal application. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do think a number of those things, correct me, Jay or Dwight, could be addressed in preliminary and final plats in the actual agreements.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else for the applicant? No? Okay. Thank you. Anything else you have a question for us on?
Nope, I'm here to listen now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then,
We have 4 cards, Mr. Mayor.
okay.
So for each of the 4 people, I have first Mr. John Fortin. Please state your name and address for the record. You have a limit of 3 to 5 minutes. Please address your comments to the council. Mr. John Fortin. Mr. Fortin. Going once.
My name's John Fortin. I live at 10,001 Jack Pine Lane in the Bellwether community. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present some thoughts and concerns that the Bellwether community has. I want to be clear that we're not opposed to development, and we understand that this is a shared community and things need to change over time. Our goal is to ensure that the safety and security of the Bellwether community, along with the collective investment in property and lifestyle, are minimally impacted during the development activities on the Bellwether southern border. We'd like to address some of the Oswald Business Park into Bellwether. We are surprised that no stipulation to improve County Road 30 and County Road 116 concurrent with the business park development in the form of added signals, signaled instructions and lane expansions weren't called out as required in the
Can I just step in real quick and I pause your time so it won't be taking it. That is something that is not within our city's control as the county. We will be working with them, you know, as an application, if an application.
It sounded like a traffic study's being done, and
Okay, would that be part of the traffic study?
Mr. Mayor, it would be part of the EAW process. We would examine the infrastructure of of the surrounding area and with the development, and as part of that, we would examine traffic flow and level of service, and that would help guide the conversation with the county as to what type of control
If it
is
meets
needed
their
there.
warrants for XYZ type improvements, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Okay. And I'm going to skip over our concerns with the parking and docks, because that's probably part of the traffic issue.
Mr. Mayor, just
Yeah.
real quick too, before we start the clock. This is only a concept, folks. We are digging really deep into this stuff, and that's what happens if we say we like the concept. It doesn't mean anything else. So just so folks know and understand, it's a concept.
A lot can change.
Could I build on that for a second,
Thanks.
please? So in the Planning Design Council, a few years ago, asked for a back of the napkin type idea before developers or property owners invested a lot of money into a concept that may not get any traction. And so they have not gone into the details of some of the concerns that you've expressed at this time. It's great to hear the feedback on what the concerns are so they can incorporate them into the design. But in terms of, they haven't invested any, all of the time and energy that's going to go to those concerns yet. So it's not a deficiency, it's just not that stage of the process.
I guess I would like to hear your full concerns with parking and roads
Okay.
and things too.
Current traffic levels on 116, 30, and 101 are very heavy, and increased levels of traffic brought on these immediate surrounding developments will exacerbate the current levels to a minimum of an E, if not an F LOS, as the indicated in the static traffic assessment for the Spring at Corcoran. That same assessment determined that a signaled intersection was warranted for the Springs of Corcoran. It would seem that the additional of Oswald Park, with its additional 500 employees, truck traffic, and semi-traffic for the 60 loading docks would bring additional unsuitable stress to the traffic flow and require similar improvements. Connecting Mulberry Lane, a low-traffic residential street, to a business park without these concurrent improvements to the surrounding county roads will dramatically increase traffic in and through Bellwether as traffic struggles to enter and exit from the business park. The prospect of this additional heavy load generates significant concern for the safety and security of the Bellwether residents. Regarding Mulberry Lane, members of the Bellwether community are on record requesting that the Hunter's Ridge and not Mulberry Lane be opened in a council meeting more than 2 years ago. The larger community's expectation around any additional county road access has always been the completion of the connection between Hunter's Ridge segments, which connects the two residential communities. Many members of the community have inquired about when this will happen over the years, and the most recent response has been once we reach 80% in the remaining part of the Bellwether build-out. Given this milestone will almost certainly be reached this fall, we request that planning be completed in preparation for the opening be started. Our concerns related to traffic are not solely constrained to the development of Oswald Field Business Park. Hope Meadows, the Spring of Corcoran, and the Biz Retail to its east also introduced significant traffic. Those plans need to be reviewed to capture a holistic perspective regarding the impact of the larger Northeast Development Plan. It seems reasonable to approach this through a macro lens and take it all into account when analyzing the impact of Bellwether and the larger issue of the traffic flow in the surrounding areas for the benefit of all communities impacted. We'd like to draw attention to the parcel between Oswald Business Park and Springs at Corcoran. This is a heavily wooded area. We would like to suggest that these woods be preserved. This would likely address the park's dedication requirement for the business park developer Hempel. Additionally, when and where it is all possible, we'd ask that any trails in the area are routed through the woodlands. We believe that this would be in the best interest of the surrounding communities, Bellwether, and the Springs at Corcoran, and the employees of the Oswald Park. We would ask that regarding trails, that all work to ensure that the maximal space possible be created between residential homes and all trails on the Bellwether southern border. expected utilization is high and maintaining a respectful separation is appropriate. It is our belief that by working with Continental Hempel and Ebert in a collective manner, this can be achieved for all impacted communities. Our last concern is the degree of buffering between the business park and all the residential neighbors on its northern border. We would ask that the level of effort going into the buffering and berms meets and exceeds the level proposed buffering and beams along the county road borders. We would hope for a beam treed with pines to a significant height to minimize visibility from residential homes into the business park and vice versa. Again, I want to thank you for your time, and then hope you can give some thought to our or consideration to our thoughts. Our intent is to work in collaboration with the city. Thank you.
Good job.
Mr. Mayor, the next one is Mr. Kevin Marlowe. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and 3 to 5 minutes of remarks to the dais, please.
Howdy, my name is Kevin Pomerlow. I live in the Bellwether Complex community. I'm at 10,009 Jack Pine Lane. I am part of a committee that we have formed inside of Bellwether to be mindful of activities going on in our southern border and in general in the community as it impacts us and our fellow residents throughout the neighborhood. What John has read for us is a reflection of a large collection of our community in terms of our concern about safety, our concern about security, and preserving our investment in the intent behind a 55-plus community and our investment in the community itself. We understand that the traffic study has not been done yet. That was obvious in the document. The document also pertained to or alluded to different types of intersections on the roads that exist on 116 and 30. We use that as our baseline because that's all we had, understanding that it would eventually be addressed by a traffic study. When you look at County Road 30 and 101 and 116 at any point in the day, but particularly around heavy peak times, that road is in a wave fashion, which brings you to the LOS of E or an F service, which is not great. You start putting Hope Meadows, the developments going on here with Oswald Business Park, the Springs, and then the commercial and retail and the potential things going on there. It drives up the amount of traffic significantly. Our concern is that the through streets, to the council's points, will increase backup traffic flowing through Bellwether, which brings concern to security and safety. People that have been waiting, and I recognize there'll be a small percentage of people who have been waiting, but the Springs of Corcoran traffic study acknowledged that the wait percentage coming through, they'll be coming through in a relaxed fashion more than likely because they're late for work, late for the daycare, whatever it might be, right? So we're concerned about how that will impact us. You know, we're out meandering around our community. We aren't watching for traffic coming through at an accelerated pace. So our end of the day, our request is that council take into consideration these concerns. We are not at all objecting to the growth of Corcoran. We look forward to the growth of Corcoran. We're simply hopeful that in the process of that growth, we can mitigate the impact to our community and the intent behind it and our safety and security. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, Mr. Jason Bartels. Please come state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 to 5 minutes to share your thoughts with council.
Jason Bartels, 19795 Hunters Ridge. Mayor, council members, and staff, thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My wife Diane and I live on Hunters Ridge, just to the north of this site. So this proposal is directly in our backyard. Of course, we and our neighbors have concerns. As previously mentioned, in the spring of 2024, United Properties presented essentially the same development plan for this site. The proposal was rejected by council. The new applicant claims they've addressed the original concerns that caused the previous proposal to fail. Although that claim may be sincere, it appears to fall short of that goal. One of the primary issues of the original proposal was, you guessed it, traffic. Neither County Road 30 or 116 are capable of handling that volume of vehicles. They weren't then, and they aren't now. Nothing has changed. If anything, traffic on 30's gotten worse over the last 2 years instead of better. As the previous speaker mentioned, how many of you traveled east on 30 lately and been frustrated with the multiple light cycles that it takes to get past Mama G's? I mean, Michelle's point is exactly right. 116 and 30 volume, it has become close to unmanageable, especially that stoplight. And now you're going to add all this new volume on top of that. People are going to figure out they're not going to go that way. They're going to cut down Hunter's Ridge. They're going to cut down Mulberry Lane. They're going to cut through Bellwether. Exactly what we don't want them to do. Anybody that works in that proposed space or is driving a truck into that proposed space from the north, they can't turn left to get in there. They'll go down to 116 and backtrack all the way around. Of course they won't. They'll cut in through Hunter's Ridge or Bellwether or somehow otherwise get into the space. It's just not going to work. The 610 extension may be done, but County Road 30 is obviously not 610. The applicant attempts to address traffic concerns by minimizing the size of the trucks, the number of truck trips, by using a reduced dock count plan. Well, if I have a industrial business manufacturer, I need material brought in, and I need my finished product shipped out, so I need trucks. If now you're telling me, a potential tenant, I can only have smaller trucks, well, I guess I'll have to make more trips. So instead of solving a problem, you've created a worse problem. The baseline problem of traffic volume simply shifts from trucks to passenger vehicles, 833 single passenger vehicles. The applicant would like to have everyone focus on the truck volume and ignore the overall traffic situation. It's an attempted diversion. Look over here at the change we're making for trucks and truck docks, but don't look over here with the 800 passenger vehicles. Councilman Bottomus said it best when he stated that business parks and buildings like this belong on Highway 610 and 169 or similar, where the highway infrastructure can handle the volume. They simply don't belong in a cornfield with single lane county road access. The applicant made the point of saying they've got buildings at 610 and 169 like the Tesla building. Yeah, you've got the infrastructure and the roads over there to handle that. You don't have that at 116 and 30. Another key issue causing the rejection of the original proposal was pollution. Councilman Lancherman at that time raised repeated concerns about light, sound, and exhaust pollution that would obviously be created. A smaller sized truck makes the same intrusive beep, beep, beep sound backing up as a larger truck. Headlights project just as brightly and the exhaust is just as toxic. The applicant says in their own proposal there will be significantly more employee passenger vehicle trips. You're admitting to the problem. The applicant also states they respect Corcoran's rural character and they want to protect the experience of the neighborhood residents. Thank you, thanks, that sounds great. But it seems a contradiction between 833 parking stalls and Corcoran's rural character. The plan is wrong for this space. It was wrong before, it's still wrong now. My fellow neighbors and I respect that the city wants to move toward a more diversified tax base, but this just isn't the answer. I know this is just a request for initial feedback, but the negative aspects simply outweigh the positive for this proposal. Yes, it's a preliminary discussion, but if these significant points fail, there really isn't any need to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last card, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Brian Lothar. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 to 5 minutes for comments to the council.
Thank you, Jay. Brian Lothar, 10110 County Road 116. I've lived there for 29 years. I think I can remember. I represent Hope Development on the west side of County Road 116. And we're still in the very early stages of, obviously, our development. And when this proposal came to light, I asked to meet with the people who are bringing this proposal, as well as Josh McKinney, who obviously works with us in our development. And I just want to see concept, not the details, but the concept. Would this concept be something that would be a complement to what we're trying to do, or would it be a detraction? And the business park designation for this site restricts what's going to go here. So the way that we have to move forward is to guide it through the process that takes all the other surrounding properties into consideration. And I think that can be done. I see a business park as something complementary to what we're trying to do, particularly on the corners of 30 and 116, with what we want to do with medical and some additional commercial development there. And so I just wanted to go on record saying that I am not opposed to the concept of a business park type of development. And I think with digging deeper, this particular proposal can really serve the community well and be not something that would detract from our development. The bigger issue that we all have to deal with is a county that doesn't really want to make improvements on County Road 30, County Road 116. But sometimes the cart has to get before the horse in order for the county to actually really respond and do something. That's why we have the EAWs and this type of thing. So I'm confident that when all of the aspects of the EAW come down the pipe, it'll give this council, the information that you'll need on how to do it going forward. But what I want to leave you with is that I think this would be something that would not detract from our development on the west side of County Road 116, but it would be something that we can collaborate together on infrastructure items that we both are going to be facing in the weeks and months to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I have a question to that point for Kevin, if you can speak to it. Is there a level of service that would trigger the county to make improvements?
I suppose it probably is. Again, we haven't done the analysis, so it's premature, but I think it's maybe better answered as the county's policies require it's almost more what the gentleman just said. Their policies and how they invest in road infrastructure are more not in advance, they're reactive and proactive, so a lot of their policies act that way. So it was stated well. I just want to remind the council that the traffic impact statements are for the impact of a specific development. So there's been some conversation about how do county roads flow and who impacts the flows. That's really not what the impact study will say. The impact study will look at what does this development do to that system and the local streets. So I just want to remind everyone of that. It's critical, and we don't want to prejudge what that is. So.
And these will be additive potentially, right? So if this proceeds and is approved, and if the Springs proceeds and is approved, and if the Hope project proceeds with additional lots, those are all going to get traffic studies individually as they come in, I would assume.
Yes.
And the county reviews each of those.
And we review each of those as a city, so they're complementary. So because the county permits the intersection, we look at collectively and make a recommendation. They have influence and have to accept the recommendation to some degree. So they do go hand in hand. Some of the larger issues that are mentioned are existing and may not apply to the specific development. Some of the concerns will apply to the development in some form or fashion, just based on the size. I think that's acknowledged. But those details will be focused on and analyzed in the specific report. So we can't speak to that. I do want to mention just broader picture. The county, although they have that reactive policy that's given to their staff, through our conversations and our councils and administrations and our team's efforts have started to get the ear. I think some of it's due to the volume increases. I think some of it's to just our advocacy. But they really only publish a 5-year plan now, and then they have kind of what they're loosely aligned as a 10-year plan. This corridor is in their 10-year plan-ish right now.
Okay.
So it's not like it's off the grid like the conversation 2 years ago.
a couple years ago.
Yeah, so it's not going to be tomorrow, but it's on their 10-year plan, and that's pretty fast for the county. So there's an understanding that there is a larger project that will need to be handled collectively, but they won't do it ahead of time.
Right.
To some of the statements made today, so it's really understanding what's happening and how do we package that deal. And the more, I want to say, partners in that, whether it's developers or city or other cities or there's grant opportunities, the more benefit you bring to other agencies and whatnot, then there's other grant opportunities and you start scoring better. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but we just want to understand the impact of this site. This site will factor in, so if it's an entitled property like Hope, that is factored into it. If it's an unentitled property, like currently like to the east, it's not entitled yet, that is not factored into it. That's just the way we have to go about it because we can't guarantee that that's happening. But once it's entitled, it is factored into the existing and projected conditions. So it can be complementary in that way. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
We've been barking about County Road 30, 116, 101 long before the state put 610 in. We've been hounding Kevin Anderson, our county commissioner. Something's got to be done before all of this comes in for at least the last 4 years, folks. I travel 30, 116, 101 every day, and it's miserable. I know it. I go one way into work, one way out. I absolutely love 610. I had nothing but bad things to say about 610 coming because it was going to dump this traffic into our community with no exits, no plans, no nothing. And I don't know if the county's listening, but they gotta do something before any of this stuff happens, not a 10-year plan. Kevin, our staff, everybody has been pushing buttons, not just County Road 3116. We've got issues at 30 and 19. We've got issues at 19 and 117. 4 years ago, the county said, yeah, we should fix the intersection between 19 and 117. And now they're listening, but it's already predetermined it's gonna be probably a roundabout for a whole bunch of money. And it's just, we want everybody in here to know, every one of us knows the traffic issues. And Kevin Anderson, County Commissioner for Hennepin County, is the person you send emails to. Please pile on.
So
Please.
if I could build on
Thank
that,
you.
Mayor and council. So a couple things just to also reassure everyone. When I arrived here 2.5 years ago, we didn't have any of county road improvements within the 10-year plan. And to that, with the advocacy with the mayor and council, and Kevin and I have found a lot of success with Mr. Anderson. Every time he has an open house, I spend a lot of time with him. And he will be here July 9th.
Yes, he will.
To have a conversation with us again. But what I wanted to celebrate is we did get County Road 10 in the 5-year plan. And so they're doing a feasibility study right now on County Road 10, which goes from 10 and 50 all the way to 101 and 10. So that will be done within the next 3 years, roughly 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
But the construction of it. So the feasibility study is happening right now. 116, we got into the work plan, and they're doing a seal coat on that this summer. Is that right? The right language?
Overlay.
Overlay.
Yeah, so
See,
full mill and
he keeps me
overlay
straight on the
all.
facts, but we got it into the work plan. We've been advocating the biggest because lives have been lost on 30 and 19. And so we've been advocating for a controlled intersection at 30 and 19. So while the traffic is frustrating, the loss of life is intolerable. And so we're trying to make sure that we're having safe roads for folks, and then we're working towards getting a better flow of roads. And so since I arrived, when we found out 610 was dumping, we were barking from the whole time of what was going to happen, and we're seeing that. And to Mr. Lother's point, unfortunately, the policy is reactive. And so now, as things are not working out, that becomes the feedback that helps drive some of the decisions. So I wish it was more proactive. It would be helpful to us if it was more proactive. That's not the way that the policy works.
The nice thing is they're a lot cheaper to build new county roads than to build new light rails.
Ouch.
Cheaper than build anything in new light rails.
Mr. Mayor, I got a couple of more points.
Sure.
Bellwether folks, Amberley folks, that property was cornfields 7 years ago. I want you to realize and understand what it was before what it is now. I also want you to think about the Oswalds. This is a family that's been sitting on this property for a long time. They would love to be able to sell that. They are trying to follow the ordinance, follow the comp plan that's been adjusted and set and in this position as a business park for over 30 years. If I'm not right, Dwight, please correct me. So I need you all to think of that. The speakers this evening related to Bellwether and stuff have thought very, very well. They are not opposed to development and those kind of things. But as we've all set up here, we're responsible for thoughtful, responsible growth. And that covers many, many different things, folks. But I do want you to know and understand, if you want it kept the way it is right now, farmland, there's an opportunity for you all to invest, make an offer to the Oswalds, and if that's a problem, if you can do that, great. I know a couple of farmers that would love to rent it from you and farm until they're ready to go. But please, there's more than just us. Selfishness is not a deal, but responsible decisions and thoughts are all of us, not just the five of us sitting up here. It's neighbors, it's everybody else. So if you look back at the days in the Maple Grove days, Maple Grove was farmland. All the way to Lawndale, even further, all the way to West Fish Lake. Look at it now. That's been 40 years of development, folks. I know it because I've lived there and now I'm out here, and it's coming. So we need to be responsible. Your input has been great this evening. Thank you very much.
Michelle?
I agree with Councilman Camp, but I also think that the residents that have come tonight to speak are they're proponents for the growth. They're not saying that it shouldn't happen. They're just asking for it to be done in a way that minimizes the impact to their community. So I can also see that perspective too. So with that, I just have a really quick question about the concept plan on that northwest side where the two buildings are parallel to 116. With that middle area, which is where I'm assuming the docks would be, coming into that area, you're going to have headlights that go directly into that development, even with the buffering, because the buffering won't be, developed until what, 15, maybe 10, 15 years
Quick
before.
question, if I can interject.
Yeah.
Dwight, is this what you were suggesting that the wing walls would be recommended?
The wing walls would be north of the loading areas, the loading bays. So that middle row between buildings 3 and 4 would be where that wing wall would be located.
Which one's
So
it? Okay, 3 and
north
4.
north of that, yeah, kind of. Jake included, yeah.
Okay.
Just north, yeah, around there.
So what I was gonna say is I don't even know if this is possible, but that would eliminate having to do this, that suggestion, if you rotated the buildings, so they were parallel with County Road 30, kind of like the other buildings are, because then you've got sort of a building buffer, which would eliminate some of the sound or the beeping a little bit would buffer, and then you've also got the buffer behind there, and I don't even know if that's possible, but I just thought maybe that might be a suggestion to mitigate some of that.
It is roughly square, that might.
It is, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, it's one of those challenges, though, our ordinance, Dwight, correct me if I'm wrong, that the loading bays and docks can't be seen from either a county road or a neighborhood.
You wouldn't be able to be,
So
they'd be
we
less,
are,
they'd be less seen if you had them that way.
Depends which way you turn it.
The southern buildings have the same challenge, and the
Yep.
loading was burning.
But it's,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, the
it's
designer's
challenging.
asking if you can ask a
Oh,
clarifying
sure.
question. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, of course. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Josh McKinney with Measure Group, a civil engineering and landscape architecture consultant.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. My address for the record is P.O. Box 10, Whiteside, Minnesota,
391.
553. Thank you. Appreciate that. So the answer to it's a good comment, and we actually did explore rotation, and I think exactly the thing we were really struggling with is that kind of we're going to be in an exposure either to a county road or to the north, and I think the headlight comment is absolutely valid, and I think
Can I ask you a quick question? So if you rotated the buildings, you could still do the wing walls, they would just be along 116?
Correct, we could basically employ the same approach, to
Okay.
your point. So we can look at that to see, to examine from both, positions. I think what we were trying to do with this arrangement as well is provide direct access to the access road for the parking area, so we're not dragging traffic all the way around, kind of to the north side of the building on one of those, we are kind of limited with right-of-way, direct access to that right-of-way in that location.
Okay.
But we certainly can explore that with staff and determine maybe what the best orientation is.
Because you could even tilt that building on the east side. It wouldn't have to be perpendicular to create more parking, if that's what you're worried about with parking space.
It's not so much
Okay.
really about parking, it's more about access to the
Okay.
right-of-way, and each parcel needing kind of a primary access to the right-of-way area is kind of what the
Okay.
idea was. But your point's valid, and we certainly support that
Thank you.
as the plan kind of matures.
Okay.
So like,
Thank
could you
you.
bring up the slides of the, I think there was like 3 points, or really 2 that, discussion points that I think we need to briefly touch on. There's the variance potentially, and
I'm just gonna flip through all these, so apologies for the quick motions here. Yeah, these are the 3 discussion points that were identified through the staff report. So is council supportive of the application as presented? Is council supportive of a potential buffer yard waiver along County Road 30? And does the concept plan meet the intent of the plaza requirements of the Northeast District?
gotcha. So I think we can get to supportive discussion after these 2, but buffer yard, I'd like to hear the council's thoughts on buffer yard requirements being waived along County Road 30. I thought there was one about a variance.
There was, yeah, for the, it's a variance for the side, or no, sorry, for the front setback for the parking lot along the local roadways. So this table shows a minimum setback for parking lots along local roadways of 50 feet.
Also, I'd push it closer to local roadways?
This would push it away from local roadways.
Okay.
Right now, it's within 50 feet, so this requirement will push it away from.
Closer to 30.
Can you show
No.
on the graphic
Yeah.
what would be affected by this? Is it proposed access road, that side, coming up to the loading docks for buildings 1 and 2?
So it would be this parking lot, where my laser pointer is, these parking lots, as well as this parking lot here. So anything that's along this access road, proposed access road, is within 50 feet right now, under the current concept plan. So the applicant would need to revise the plans to push it away from that local roadway, or apply for a variance.
So
And which local roadway are you referring to? Is
I
that
guess
County Road
Both
30?
access roads that
Both.
are part
Okay.
of the development.
Yeah,
Okay.
County Road 30 and County Road 116 are major roadways.
Okay.
So my apologies for lack
No,
of
that's
clarification.
So
okay.
it potentially would push northern buildings north, southern buildings south.
Potentially.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't know how
I
to
don't
feel
know.
about that. If it
I
was
would not
just
want it
moving
closer
south,
to the
I'd
north.
potentially be more open to it, but yeah, I don't want to move it north, really.
Yeah, I feel like, I'd be more concerned if it was to an existing road. But because they're all internal to the development, I would
Yeah.
not have a major concern. I would see it as a viable variance route, or a PUD would be the other way to do it.
Okay, and then, so that was the only one on this, and then there was the other, if you go back to the, thank you. I guess I don't think the buffer yard requirement should be waived along County Road 30.
I mean,
I'd like to see the overall design and what would be possible to permit the snowmobile trail. If the buffer
Fair.
yard
Fair.
additional requirements precluded that, because there's just not enough space, then I would say we could waive it. I do like the additional screening they are asking to do, so they don't have to be 100 feet away from the county road. I know we're asking this off the cuff, can you speak to that plausibility? My question is, with the base landscaping required for the building based on square footage and perimeter, the extra landscaping required for the setback reduction, if there was also buffer yard requirements on that south side, does that make it impossible for a snowmobile trail to fit?
We'd really have to evaluate that. I think it's a lot, right? I think that we're trying to then balance to the visibility of the individual businesses and, from a signage perspective too, so that's where like those buffer yards, if we get too heavy on like the coniferous requirement in that area, instead of just utilizing berming to kind of really buffer up the cars, which I think is the bulk of the point of the buffering to the parking lots, right? I think we'd probably be more successful if we could basically facilitate, like that's, snowmobile area along the north side of County Road 30, if we could have some flexibility. But if the council is adamant that buffer yard should stay at, at that level, we just have to explore it. And if we end up with needing some flexibility on the line, I think that is something we can come back to the council and ask for that question. I think understanding like the current like thinking of council would be helpful as we proceed. But just recognize like today I couldn't tell you honestly like what the impact of that decision is right now.
I guess I'd be potentially more open to it if something like that were feasible. So I'd want to see what was, what you came up with and what could be done. That's the only one, unfortunately, the only one being discussed that I would be okay reducing in any scenario, reducing about the buffer yard on the 31 as opposed to the other three sides.
And there wouldn't be a point if you can't continue it farther east. So like the springs can't accommodate it, or whatever the middle portion would accommodate.
Yeah, it would have to be in coordination with a lot.
Yeah, so I guess we were looking for some staff evaluation on what that might look like based on other things you're aware of.
Again, that's probably not a tonight answer.
Yeah, probably not.
Look into.
I think the other thing too we'd be looking for, even if staff could make a connection to that snowmobiling group, is like, what's the width that's required in order to facilitate safe snowmobiling?
We can get you in touch.
One thing to be like, hey, you've got this massive county ditch for now, but what we're all hoping in the future is that County Road 30 is a nice curved road or an urban section road that's wide enough to facilitate all the traffic in this area. What does that do? Once a trail section, for example, goes in on the north side of 30, where are we at choking down in that area? So I think we should just study that corridor from a typical safety standpoint. What do we need to actually grab a safe snowmobile routing and just like evaluate that? I can't tell you yes or no right now, but it's certainly something that this applicant will be looking at. So at least try.
Jake, you could.
Steve Hohag, I forwarded you his contact his name.
Perfect. So yeah, I think I'd like to see that one.
We also learned on the snowmobile folks, they rerouted the snowmobiles when Bellwether was put in. The trail actually headed north up past Steegs and such and up into Rogers and stuff. That has obviously gone away. So as all of this stuff happens east-west from 101, it's going to change. But those men and women do an awful lot as part of our rural character on snowmobiling and stuff. It just, how long can it go? They may even have suggestions. They're great to deal with. So.
And I think we did have this discussion, now that you said his name, I believe we had a discussion with this gentleman as a part of the Hope development.
Yep.
That project has a 50-foot corridor along the same area, but is not proposing like the same level of berming and whatnot.
Right.
Because it's more of a commercial and wants some additional visibility to that site. So it's a couple different types of conditions, but I think what I'm hearing from this council is like certainly a desire for us to engage on that and see what we can do to make and accommodate.
That'd be great.
And something that recently happened was the Oswalds gave up some of the property through those woodlands to move the trail south from Bellwether. So, I mean.
And the city gave up some of their charitable gambling funds.
Yes, we did. We helped make that happen. So, thanks.
Thank you. And then the last one, I think I would need to know more information about the plazas and what exactly entails that, so maybe that would be something to come back with. The public one sounds generally like a good idea. The private ones, I don't know what the benefit would be. I'd have to see them.
It feels like it would be better to consolidate and have one. that's more significant in size than one per building from the Northeast District guideline perspective.
I'd be open to that.
Especially if they're primarily geared for employees versus I think the district was meant to be more of a communal area. So I don't know if there's gonna be maybe an opportunity farther to the east as part of the yet undeveloped parcel that'll be closer to the, I think it's mixed residential or the mixed use farther to the east. It'll be interesting to see what kind of amenities could be there. The trail could provide a good access point as well. It looks like it might be a little small up in that northeastern corner, the way that it's currently drawn, but I know the ponding is approximate. And the trail has to get revised anyway. Maybe some curvature there will end up creating a nice space.
It's not a bad.
Or isn't Continental going to have a road that kind of goes, not Continental, the Springs? Aren't they going to have a road that kind of goes through the center of their development that's going to connect with this development?
Yeah, that's figure 2 again.
Okay.
Yes,
Figure 2, okay, hold on.
So I'm with my laser pointer, if I can get it up. There would be, with the Springs application, there would be a local roadway that would kind of stub to approximately this location on the Oswald property. So
Okay.
Whenever the eastern portion of the Oswald's property develops, that would connect that road at this location rather than kind of up north where they're showing now, and then loop up to that north-south road.
So then maybe one of our open forum speakers today mentioned not having the trail go so close to the Bellwether neighborhood up in that corner. If there's going to be a plaza that's more centrally located on that portion, maybe the trail moves south to better align with that, if that's where the plaza would be going, if it's more centrally located then.
The challenge is there's so many intersections along that proposed access road. It would be a challenge to have a good trail experience along something like that. I was thinking the same thing. Because it is kind of like almost like a parkway look, the way that it's drawn here, but there's just so many driveways that you're gonna cross.
Yeah.
And I think.
But it wouldn't have to, it wouldn't have to go through there. You could have the plaza like, I don't know, somewhere in the center of that undeveloped area, and it wraps around and goes along County Road 30 maybe, I don't even know, or maybe it goes up by the pond, wraps down and goes around, to try to move it away from the developments to the north.
The trail or
The trail.
The trail
The trail
goes
right now-
through Bellwether right now.
Right, but it
Yeah.
wraps and it comes almost perpendicular with like several properties on the corner up there of what's undeveloped right now, where that big flock of trees is, where the trail is right now. Why couldn't they bring that down more into the trees and then have the plaza somewhere centrally located once they're actually building the other buildings in that area?
That would be part of the eastern development too, which
Yeah.
isn't part of this
Yep, no,
concept
part of
yet.
the
That would be a future discussion when they come in with
Right.
that plan.
But it impacts it though, because if the trail is gonna be,
Where's it gonna land?
right.
I think that's, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think that's a fair discussion for when that eastern property develops in the future, the trail alignment. I know that the Parks and Trails Commission made a note when they were reviewing the Springs application that the trail design on that eastern property be designed in such a way to minimize impact to the neighboring residential area. But for the plaza discussion, if a plaza were placed on the undeveloped piece, that's off of the properties that we're looking at today. So I don't know if that's really an option under the straight plating process. If it were a PUD, that might be something that the council would maybe have more, I guess, leverage to request. But for just a straight plat, we would be really looking at just the western 2/3 of the site.
Would the Park District be, they've talked to us about when they have trail segments, they like to get wider easements where they can. Have they considered purchasing easement in the undeveloped portion where that future trail segment is arcing through today?
They haven't communicated that to staff. Doesn't mean that they haven't explored that idea, but they have.
That might be something to prompt as a way to preserve some of those trees. I don't know if the applicant is willing to sell that at this point, but it might be worth a conversation.
I can
Yeah.
ask Marge and see if they've explored it. Mark?
Yeah, if I could just say with great respect, tonight we were asked to give feedback. We've given that feedback, and now it seems as though we're transitioning into massaging this application, and it's not, that wasn't what the intention of tonight was. And I just have an issue with that. With respect to the 3 questions that Dwight had up there, if anyone cares about my opinion, I would say no, no, and no, because none of it fits. And again, I really don't like the sessions when we're asked to give feedback, because they always transition into massage sessions. And I just don't think it's appropriate.
Okay, appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, that's noted.
And with that, I do think we've given our feedback. So I would like to see what you guys can come back with. You guys take a lot of that into account, and I'd encourage you to work with the neighbors. If the neighbors have, a group, obviously it's hard to meet with every single one, but if maybe organize as a group and have a couple people to meet with, and with the other property owners nearby, I think it helps a lot.
Can I add one more
Yeah.
comment? I guess just to piggyback on what Councilmember Lanterman said, I also feel that this is not the best place for a business park to go, and I know it's been in our comp plan for a very, very long time. But with the way that the city has progressed with its growth, I feel like the best place that it should be located would be along the 101 corridor, more towards 610. I don't know if there's property still available out there. But I would tend to agree with what Councilmember Lanterman said in that, in his points of no, no, and no, I think what we've been trying to do is trying to figure out a way to make it okay for the development to come in, and also for the residents that live in that surrounding area. But that is where I stand, is that I don't believe that corner should be a business park. I feel like it should be something different that is more cohesive with the developments that are coming in around it.
Anything else?
For want of a DeLorean, to go back to planning sessions in 2017,
Or,
I think we have to go back earlier than
farther.
more, best we can do.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that car, though.
You've got one of those?
You have my support on that point.
Didn't
All
you
right.
buy one of those
So I think-
DeLoreans? Didn't you have one?
What's that? Yeah, I think 3 to 2 to see how you can incorporate the feedback and work with the neighbors. Perfect. Thank you. And then we will move on to item,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I'm sure a lot of these folks
Yes, that's.
probably don't want to sit around,
I
so.
was gonna say, yeah, you're more than welcome to stay, but,
Can we take a 5 minute?
yeah. But no hurt feelings if you walk out. We totally understand the rest of the meeting's not particularly exciting or relevant to you.
Speak for
And-
yourself.
If they wanna stay, they're more than welcome to, always. And then we will take a 5-minute recess here, reconvene at 6 minutes. Give me 1 second here, I'll tell you.
Longevity pay?
6-minute recess, reconvene at 9 o'clock. We're in recess. Amendment to the fee schedule, and we'll continue on with unfinished business, 9A, longevity pay. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, at the June 3rd, 2026 City Council Special Work Session, the City Council directed staff to explore alternative longevity pay options in place of the previously approved model for police officers, which had included 3% after 10 years, 6% after 15 years, and 9% after 20 years of service. Based on the comparable cities' data, staff developed a proposed longevity pay structure based on the approach used by the City of Rogers. While the City of Rogers model offers $100 for each year of service beginning after 1 year of service, the proposed City of Corcoran model would offer $100 for each year of service beginning after 10 years of service. Staff did not include a model based on the City of Orono, as it was understood that council direction was to not modify employees' base pay rates. So, including your memo, staff has included projected City Hall and Public Works longevity pay annual amounts for the years 2026 through 2030. And with that, staff is seeking direction on the following policy questions. The first question is, does the City Council support implementing the proposed longevity pay policy for City Hall and Public Works employees? And then the second question is, if the City Council supports the proposed longevity pay policy, what should the effective date be? Because longevity pay would be provided as an annual payment, should the policy become effective in 2026 or 2027? If the City Council chooses to implement the policy effective in 2026, staff recommends that eligible employees receive longevity pay on the payroll following their full-time employment anniversary. For eligible employees whose full-time anniversaries have already occurred in 2026, staff is recommending providing the retroactive payments on the next payroll.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
I have comments,
Sure.
unless someone else wants to go first.
Feel free.
Go ahead.
Okay. I do not support adopting this annual longevity payment policy in 2026 or 2027, not because the idea lacks merit, but because it hasn't been evaluated the way a new recurring benefit should be. It pays automatically every year on one thing, years of service. Not performance, not certifications, not added responsibility, not a documented retention problem. We already compensate through wages, pay ranges, benefits, PTO, and the annual budget. This is a separate payment on top of that. And I want a clear answer on the true cost. The draft says PERA, P-E-R-A, contributions will be deducted from this payment. Well, in reviewing PERA's rules, the wages we deduct from are the same wages that set an employee's high five, the average their lifetime pension is built on. So before we have some vote on this topic, staff should confirm two things on the record. Do these figures include our employer side PERA and payroll costs, or just the payments? And is this payment PERA-covered salary? If it is, this isn't a $17,000 line item. It permanently raises the pensions these positions draw for life. If it isn't, then the draft is wrong to deduct PERA. It's alone is a reason to send it back. The comparable cities don't support broad expansion. Of the 7 cities, 2 have no longevity pay, and 3 limit longevity pay to police only. And only 2 extend it to all full-time staff, and staff built this on essentially one of them. The origin matters too. As the report states, this came from our June 3rd direction to find an alternative to the police longevity model. A benefit shaped in a law enforcement collective bargaining context should not automatically become a citywide benefit for all non-union staff. There's also a scope problem. The draft applies to, quote, regular full-time employees. The report and budget describe City Hall and Public Works. The policy is what binds, and as written, it reaches further than we've costed. And staff is recommending retroactive payments for 2026. I don't support backdating a brand new recurring benefit. I'm not saying never, I'm saying not like this and not without the data. So I would recommend to the council that we not implement the proposed policy at this time, and that any future longevity or compensation adjustments go through the annual budget and compensation review process with no retroactive payments.
Thank you. Thank you. And staff, do you have any follow-ups?
So this would be taxable income. So to answer your question, Councilmember Lynchman, it would be counted towards your income and deducted for PERA.
Okay.
Counted towards your high five.
So it would impact the high five, which would make it
Because it's
a
taxable.
greater and greater and a greater benefit year after year into forever.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
It would, Mr. Mayor, it would not change their salaries.
Correct.
It would change their
is-
compensation, but it
Yes.
wouldn't change their hourly rate.
Correct.
They would get paid more, but they're not raising their salary.
So
Which
if
is
you're
the
here
feedback we
40
wanted
years,
staff to bring last time.
it would
So-
be, so just for a specific example.
Yeah.
Somebody starts here at 22, they spend 40 years. Their 40th year, they're gonna be making an extra $4,000 based on $100 for every year of service,
Correct.
so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the hourly rate wouldn't change, that base salary wouldn't change, but this would still count towards your taxable incomes, because it would be an
But
additional
it'd be a
4,000.
one-time deal every year, once they hit 10 years is proposed.
Correct.
Plus the
Plus they've gotta
increase to
be-
the pension.
No, it wouldn't do anything to the pension.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
Well, it would have an impact on the pension because it's increasing the high five.
Yes.
Okay.
Total compensation
Total
would
compensation.
confers, just like other compensations that are not part of hourly, like overtime.
Right, so it's a raise without calling it a raise.
It's essentially a specialty pay that was, that we have, that the council has approved for, for like police officers, so it's
Right.
additional specialty pay.
How do employees receive pension? Is that a city expense ongoing, or is that paid for by the state fund and we don't see direct cost for it?
So are you asking about when they're employed or when they?
When they've retired.
When they receive it through para?
So is there a city expense after an employee is terminated employment and retired for the pension?
From my understanding, no.
Yeah, the expense
I
occurs
believe the
at,
city has a contribution to
the
pay.
contribution happens at the time of
As
payment.
they're
Yeah,
employed,
they're getting paid.
yes.
So we're paying into the fund every year. When they retire, that relationship is severed, and they draw from the para funds they've contributed over the course of their time employed.
So non-police officers, and then those who have fire service, officers different from them, all non-first responders have a certain para rate. It's different for police officers and first responders, but both of those funds provide the retirement income post-retirement.
Theirs is higher, isn't it?
It
Fire
is.
and police.
And for a good reason. It's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
So for para contributions in the coordinated plan, which would be general city employees within the state, employees contribute 6.5% of their total salary from their paycheck, and employers contribute 7.5% to the PERA fund. Police and fire is, the employees contribute 11.8%, the employers contribute 7.7%. So as they're being paid, a certain amount is deducted from the employee's paycheck, and the employer contributes a different amount during the course of their career. Once they separate employment and they're drawing, they are paid from the PERA, the state-managed retirement fund. So that retirement fund is funded throughout the course of their career.
So for every $100 that this program would incur, there's an extra $7 that goes toward para.
Yes, the employee would contribute $6.5, and the employer would contribute 7.5 in addition to the funded.
Were those numbers included in those numbers in your report? Or was that strictly?
This is just strictly off of the years of service.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's less than sales tax, that's nice. I would agree with Councilor Lanterman regarding not making it retroactive. I would think this would be, if we're going to do it, let's budget it for 2027 and adopt it as part of those discussions with whatever we're gonna do with COLA and any other adjustments we're gonna make.
Fun. Okay. So that
The other thing that's part of this also is they get this only if they've reached the top level of their grade.
No, because you could have somebody that, for example, had reached the top level as a step 8. I'm sorry, Alicia. I will let you answer.
So actually, yes, so what City Administrator Tobin was getting to is essentially this model is built for staff that have met the max step of step 8. So there's going to be some staff members that are at step 8, let's say next year, but they haven't been with the city for 10 years yet. They might be like 5 years out or something like that. So they will have to wait essentially an extra 5 years to get the longevity pay. Does that make sense? Even though that they're maxed out on the comp system?
I think I interpreted the question differently.
I was going to address that, another wrinkle. So for example, when I leave and Kevin steps up to be the city administrator, he may not come in at the top city administrator step 8. And so he may have the longevity and he was at step 8 before. He might now be at step 6 in a new supervisory role and still eligible for that 10-year or whatever the longevity was. So there could be instances of it, but that wasn't the intent of it. That would be unusual but possible.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of instances of that.
Right.
So if I could just get some details straight here. So Wayzata has longevity, but only for police officers, right?
Correct.
Dayton has longevity, but only for police officers, right?
That's incorrect. So there's an updated
Well,
chart in
yeah.
the memo. So Dayton actually has 4 longevity pay policies. Hourly police officers.
That's not in the report. I
The
have.
table should be
believe they do
updated.
have
I think it was updated on the 23rd.
Mine's out of date too. I just pull it on Friday, but I believe you.
Isn't I legislative?
We should have current information if we're going to talk about.
It's updated in iLegislate.
Yeah, it's updated.
So if
in
you're not
legislate.
downloading a PDF version, it would be uploaded by iLegislate.
So Dayton does have a longevity pay model for their city hall employees starting year 8. And it's 1% added to their base hourly rate, and then it varies.
Okay, so since this apparently is not correct, which cities offer longevity to just police officers? Is that Wayzata?
So that would be Wayzata
Okay,
and Medina.
and Medina, and then Dayton just changed?
The information we had from Dayton that was presented at the June 3rd meeting was outdated, so we did reach back out to them, and the information that was just updated on June 23rd, we found out that they actually did have a longevity pay policy for all of their staff.
Okay, and Minnetrista has no longevity pay. Victoria has no longevity pay.
Because they contract with Carver County, so yes, correct.
What does that mean?
Victoria does.
They don't have
They
their
don't
own.
have an in-house public safety department, they contract out their services.
Okay, but they have no longevity for any employee.
Correct.
And we think we need one for recruitment, retention?
So this is just a recommendation from staff, like we've said before, to be fair and equitable. This has been practiced, from my understanding, that has been brought to council.
Fair and equitable because the cops get longevity?
No, actually, before the cops even asked for longevity, this was the very first, and I mentioned this at previous briefings. When I first arrived here in 2023, this was the first request that I received from any employees, from the Public Works employees.
And it had been requested.
And it had been requested prior to that. And so before the police officers came to bargaining unit negotiations to ask for it, it was first asked for by the Public Works Department, 2 years prior. Yeah, at least 2 years prior. So the two years prior for me.
Just to clarify, that was the Public Works and other city went through a similar recruitment and retention survey with staff that the police did 3 or 4 years ago. We mimicked their model where we met with staff and surveyed and identified a list 1 through 10 and prioritized that. And so that's where it is part of recruitment and retention. It does attract good employees. It does keep good employees. And it, at least from the Public Works standpoint, it was high on the list of something that we valued from our department in terms of recruitment and retention. So that occurred before you came, that survey process, in Alicia too. So
That was the first conversation.
As a preliminary conversation that was out of like the larger recruitment and retention policy that the city was going through across the department.
I didn't realize public service could be so lucrative.
Okay, any other comments or discussion on this item?
I have one more comment, I think.
Go ahead.
I think there was a note that if employment is terminated by either this employee or this city, most likely would be the employee, and then the employee comes back before 6 months has expired, that they'd be reinstated for all of the years that they had worked? Is that right?
Correct, so that is just language that we have, that's what the city of Rogers had used in their language, so if that's not something the council is comfortable with, we
Okay.
can remove that, so.
Okay. I guess I would say if employment is terminated, it's done.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And I feel like there's a situation where we could encounter possibly someone who retires, and then there's a waiting period of so many months before you can actually start working again at a city. And so they could have 30 years, and then they come back before that 6 months is expired, and now they're gonna still get pay, which, I mean, I guess you could look at it two different ways. They had been at the city for a very long time, but I feel like there should just be a hard and fast line that if you're done working at the city, you're done working at the city, and you start from year one when you start over again. That's just my opinion.
Do we have that kind of a policy for other benefits? Where there's a reset provision at a certain date?
Not that I can recall, I can look into that and get.
I wouldn't treat it differently than anything else, is what I would say. If we have it for other things, we should have it for this.
I don't think we
We
do,
don't.
but that's a really
So,
good
for
point.
example, if you worked here for 20 years and you left for 6 months and then decided to come back because you'd made a mistake, you'd start at the 0 level for PTO?
You would.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the city of Rogers, they're obviously very generous with their policies, so, again, if that's not something the council is comfortable with, we can do that.
I think a lot of cities have a 6-month rehire. It's pretty typical. However, the city chooses to approach it, but it's not uncommon for cities to do a 6-month rehire without loss of accrual.
In the private sector, I've seen it at a year, where if you leave a company and you decide you're gonna come back, they want you back, it's a desirable situation, they'll reinstate you at the previous level of PTO or whatever is time-based within a year. So I would feel that's normal within the market. If we haven't had those discussions yet, that might be something for staff to come back with a recommendation on.
And I suppose too, it does give council has the discretion on if that value is worth it.
And if you don't want the employee back, then you wouldn't hire them. So you're doing it in the case where you're trying to induce somebody that you feel is a good fit for whatever the need is. And you were happy to give them those benefits 9 months ago, so why not now?
So something for 2027.
I think 2027 makes sense.
It still sticks with me. I don't mind the longevity pay, but it being just that one-time deal, it's part of their base salary. If I've been here 10 years, I get my normal paycheck, I get $1,000, I move on. That $1,000 doesn't affect any of my retirement, anything else related to whatever. And again, it's limited to if you are at the top of your pay grade and salary, then that's a lever that's pulled. You get $1,000. The next year, you get $1,100 because you get nothing
COLA.
going beyond. And you guys are talking it's going to add to their retirement and they pay a certain amount. I wasn't expecting that. I'd still like to recognize longevity and I want it as simple as possible and a thank you. Jeremy talks about, the private sector and such. I've been part of it where I was at my top salary where I was before. You get nothing. You're there. It's done. And again, the budget it always had some numbers for top performers at top pay, and then I would get a one-time reward of $1,500 or whatever the manager decided. This is different, but I just don't see, I'm not a fan of it's contributing to anything else other than it is a taxed longevity payment. And it stops there. There's no other tracking.
So the city is statutorily required to contribute to compensation that employees receive, so there's not a way to give pay without it coming towards it by the.
Yeah, it has to be taxable.
It would have to be taxable income.
Well, taxable, yes, but not.
But if it's taxable income,
it
then.
still
then
has to
that's
end
goes
up,
in as
we
para-
gotta
as
put the extra
compensation.
7.5% in. Okay, now takes a little while to get through this thick skull of mine. Thanks.
Can I ask one question, Alicia? Do we have, I think we have a policy in place that gifts employees after like, I don't know, I don't remember what it was, but like 10 years, you get like a set of engraved glasses that have the logo on them. At 15 years, you get something else. I think we have a policy in place for that, which kind of goes along with longevity. Maybe we need to refresh that too.
Yeah, we do have something in place like that.
Yeah.
At like your 10 years, you get like a jacket or something.
Or something,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. Or like a nice set of like beer mugs or something. It was, yeah.
Are we
You get really cool blue cuffs on your,
There
if
you
you
go.
saw that sign.
With little.
That Officer Lawson received tonight.
Are we actively doing that?
We're trying to. So we could bring it back to council if you're interested in looking at that.
Maybe a combo of a slightly smaller number with enforcing, or actually doing that.
When I was in Shakopee, something that I wasn't expecting but was interesting is they actually had a catalog when you received the 5 year.
5 years, 10 years.
5 years, 10 years, and then when you do that. So the watch that I'm wearing was for my 5 years in Shakopee. But I hit 5 years similar with multiple other employees. One person got a socket set. Another person got one of those blender type things. And so what I thought was cool about that is it really met personal needs or desires. And it wasn't significant. This isn't a fancy watch, but it's a meaningful one.
That would be taking it up a step, because I don't think it was like specific items, like at 5 years, it was this, 10 years, it was this, 15 years, it was this. I like that idea.
Yeah.
So maybe if staff could, since I think those in agreement in general are thinking 2027, so we have some time. If staff could maybe bring back both like some sort of hybrid model like I was talking about, Alicia, and a model like you were just talking about, of like a catalog, nicer items.
Often the catalogs are only every 5 years, though.
Yes.
So that would be a different sort of
Right.
benefit.
I think that's why you were mentioning something like a model that
Right.
combines the two things.
I mean, maybe you would want to do like at your 10th and 15th and 20th, you get a catalog, and the catalog is at a higher value level, kind of a thing. If they even go that high, I don't know.
Right.
So I was able to find that recognition program that was approved by city council in 2018. I can just pull it up here quickly, maybe.
My wife got a.
Wow, you found that fast.
35 years.
Did you use the new button?
I knew what you were referring to, so I had it.
20 pages of stuff she could do. So that would be
Try to remember.
For my 10-year, I got a DeWalt drill.
Oh, it's green.
Is it great?
$30 like that, 78 pieces.
An advertising agency I worked at. It was so fun.
So this is similar, what she's sending me right now is similar for a breakdown as you were alluding to in terms of years, significant benchmarks of longevity.
And again, I don't want to take away from the longevity from the rest of our staff. I agree very much with Mark. The police have that contract, they've negotiated, they've done all of those things. We've got some folks that have been here 10+ years that are awesome team members and such. So, if they're listening, I mean, nothing wrong. Or nothing different. You're just as valuable. It's just, it's a big ask, folks. So, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so this is actually the corporate recognition policy. It looks like it was officially adopted in 2012 and then updated in 2015 and then again updated in 2018. So these are the longevity awards that are presented here.
I think maybe an update and expansion of that and potentially hybridized with the financial model would be something I'd be interested in.
It's too many jackets.
Yeah. And
Every 5 years, though.
You can't have
Every 10.
We
Oh,
change our
yeah.
logo that much.
We changed our logo twice.
I know.
Once.
Say that.
Once.
I was just gonna say, are we up for a remodel on our logo?
No.
So
Maybe-
what are we
maybe the
doing? Is
40-year.
staff going back?
I think staff's
and
gonna go back
doing
and
something
put
like
together, maybe an updated, expanded version of this and potentially a possible hybridized model.
So it sounds like the council's not supportive of the proposed longevity pay that was included in the packet. Is that the consensus?
Yes.
I'm supportive of,
I'm
I'm supportive of it,
I am as well.
starting in
I
2027.
don't know, council.
I would say yes, 2027, but it's gotta be our budget. We gotta have pretty hard numbers, but a modified way of this, people can choose from, like I said, there's awards out there, there's plans out there that you can change, you can choose from these things, as Jay chose a watch, or if you didn't choose, you could choose this much for 5, this much for 10, this much for 15.
I didn't want the mixer.
Like I said, my wife chose a kayak at 30 from Cargill, and,
Quick question, so are we exploring cash plus this?
Or just
We're trying to
this?
figure that out.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out.
Or,
Where we stand.
or one or the other?
That's what we're trying to figure
So,
out.
so this exists, and what I'd heard was a updating this
Mhm.
to provide some alternatives beyond this. Is that,
Yeah, what I had envisioned is when you get to like a 5-year anniversary increment, maybe instead of getting the longevity pay, you get a catalog at that dollar value. So at your 10-year, you get a $1,000 catalog, and your 15, you get a $1,500 catalog versus just getting the cash.
my catalog was like $100. My watch, like I said, was cheap but meaningful.
Yeah, and maybe you split it then. Maybe you don't go that high. But I wouldn't want to spend more than the longevity pay proposal. But maybe there's another way you want to split that, where instead of giving somebody $1,500 at 15 years, you give them $1,000 and a catalog at $500.
So it sounds like the council has consensus on updating the employee recognition program, this from 2018,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing it back versus.
And maybe
actual
incorporate
longevity
longevity into that system.
Yeah, a non-cash recognition system.
Well, I think some of us are potentially open to a hybridized model, and you're not.
I'd like to see more of the numbers related to.
And Dean's in between.
And I'm kind of on Dean's page. I'd like to see the numbers.
This, I think, could be updated.
So I think we all agree
On top
that
of
that
it.
could be updated and should be
Yeah.
updated, and then what we end up deciding from how that update looks, if we want to incorporate some financial component to it as well, or not, will be the decision we'll have to make when that comes back.
As part of the 2027 budget process.
Yes.
Yes.
Or budget process.
That work? Thank you. Okay, 9B, Civic Campus discussion.
Mr. Mayor, and council. So, first, I just want to, first, I wanted to touch base on why we're having Civic Campus Conversation for those who haven't been watching. So, to hit a couple of milestones, in 2018, when you see on the schedule, and that's why this is the first one, the city recognized that it had grown significantly. So when this building was built in 1994, the population was 4,568 and the city had 8 employees. By 2018, the population was 6,026 and the city had 25 employees.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, City Minister Tobin, do you happen to have this in a slide?
I sent it to you.
You did, okay, because I can't see the screen.
Yeah, I emailed
Okay.
it to you earlier. And so in 2018, there was a recognition at that time, only 9,000, roughly 500 square feet of this building was used for the city business. And so then they hired Wold to do a study, and we've looked at this before, the Wold study. And Wold determined that at that time, the needs of the city was close to 29,000 square feet for what they needed. And so the building they recognized was insufficient, but council at that time said that let's wait. And that's when the placeholder was put in the long-term financial plan until 2027. Let's wait until 2027 to do the necessary builds. And then $1 million was committed to renovating the building, which worked at that time because that half of the building was a community center and wasn't occupied, and this half was occupied by city staff.
It got us 8 or 9 years that we otherwise would not have been able to.
But the reason that renovation worked too is because you didn't have to move operationally into another space. We did move some people out. People were working in lots of different places on top of each other for that window of time as the renovation occurred. But it was to buy time. And so now as we've grown, we got the data, updated data from Met Council, and our 2025 Met Council numbers, the city of Corcoran is at 9,577. 2025, that's last April. So that projects us as of this April, we believe that we are at 10,225. That's a 224% growth in the city since this building was built. And staffing right now, operating on this building, is currently 43 and projected potentially to go to 47 next year. And so that's one of the key reasons is we do not have space to operate in here in a building that was designed for 8 people in a city of 4,000 people. That's a reality. And so the next part of the reality is some of our values is fiscal stewardship, but also responsible decision-making. So as we look at that growth chart of where the city's going, this is what people who have built over 200 public facilities are telling us. Vold did that in 2018, but we've had other studies that have now indicated that in 2018 we're 25 staff. We're currently 43 staff still operating in that, but actually based on their estimates, we need 54,808 square feet. That leaves us, we're currently 52,000 square feet short of what the experts say we should be operating in. And so we went out for a survey. Council said we want to hear from the public. So every household in Corcoran received an opportunity to do the survey. If they did not receive the survey, they were welcome to come up and get it here at City Hall, or they could contact us and email us and they could get it. And so we contacted a professional firm that does this, typically for school districts, because they have referendums that they're required to do for school districts. And so they said statistically significant is 10%. That lets you know the sentiment of your community. We received just shy of 20% of respondents. Of that, 56% said that they were in favor of a 20-year building. And some of the comments were having to deal with stewardship. Every month that we delay right now, so this is a not to exceed 50 million building. The cost of our future facility goes up between 4 and 6%. That means every month, not doing something costs the city $166,000 or up to $250,000 in future cost by not doing something every month right now that we delay. And so that's going to continue to go as we delay. And that 4 to 6% doesn't just apply to that, but there's some operational concerns that we have as well. If you remember these, and when we sat down and did our goals and strategic planning for 2026, the number one priority directed by council was the planning and preparation to build this facility because of a recognition of the things that we're talking about. But the public safety vulnerabilities that we have, these 3 areas are significant. And as we've gone to 2 other facilities, the differences between our facility and how other cities operate is stark. So for example, the vulnerability that we have in detainee management, right now, it's essentially a closet, which is absurd with the risk that we're offering, but then also we don't have a way to hold detainees other than to sit on them in an office space where other people are operating. So if you have a potentially violent criminal, that is a huge vulnerability.
And that's with one person.
And that's if somebody comes in the evening, there's the potential that there could be only one person on duty trying to sit with that person.
That, and also I was saying if you needed to detain 2 people.
Yes, you're correct. We don't have the capacity. So if we had multiple suspects, and Chief Gottschalk can help me flesh this out a little bit, because this is actually his expertise, but the point that I'm trying to make is these 3 areas, and operational readiness, that picture doesn't actually reflect it well. We have to move our cars out of the parking garage and put mats on the floor for our police officers to do their training. All 12 seasons. That is absurd. And so these 3 areas are critical risk areas. And then on top of this, we throw CJIS compliance, and there's other statutory requirements that become problematic in terms of public safety vulnerabilities. In aligned with the stewardship question, if you recall, when we first had the conversation and staff was directed by council to go explore, the initial direction was land acquisition. And we appraised properties, we looked at land acquisition, and we determined that it was not the best use of the taxpayers' dollars, because we were going to spend a lot of money and then have to pull a lot of utilities to those spaces. And so between 6 million, that's the low end, potentially up to 10 million, is saved by using this site. And so it was only through the iterations of creative problem solving and the feedback from the council that we were able to conclude that this was the best site. But the biggest concern about the Civic Campus is we have 4 significant strategic problems on the horizon. The Civic Campus is one that's been talked about for a decade. Another one is Public Works. When Public Works was built in 2013 timeframe, the experts said that at that time they needed 39,000 square feet. And instead, it was decided to build it at 24,000 and some change. So we started out with a deficit. And then the cost of fixing that deficit over time just grows incrementally. I said 4 to 6% on the cost of that. So when we talk about fiscal responsibility, now we're going to pay over the course of the last 10 years, take that 4 to 6% shortfall, multiply that times the last 10 years, well, it's actually 12 years. That's what it's going to cost us to do what we could have done much cheaper in 2014. That same principle applies to a civic campus. The same principle applies to a fire. So in 2018, we had a fire services study, and the recommendation was to build a fire station within the next year. And we haven't been able to make that happen since 2018. But as part of the space needs analysis, it was determined that to build a fire station at this point would be between 15 and 17 million in 2025 dollars. That 4 to 6% cost increase also continues. And then last are the roads. So one of the reasons this is phased this way is we have limits on our bonding capacity. So roughly, if you add all of these up, it's almost $124 million in today obligations. We don't have the bonding capacity in order to get all of those funds to address all of those problems. And we certainly don't have the staffing capacity to manage all of those problems at one time. And so what we have here is a real threat of converging capital liabilities. So the public works demands, the fire station, those gravel road, to do that right now is roughly $1.5 million, which would be $41 million in today dollars. One of the things I heard at all of these public meetings was, what are we doing about the roads? I heard that at the open house numerous times. And we haven't had a plan, long-term plan for those. And we need one. I absolutely agree with that. But back to that last slide, these are all competing demands. Where do you do it? Where do we apply? And what do you get for the most bang for your buck in 2027? So, following council's direction, we have been working diligently towards schematic design. We've had 6 public meetings and gotten good feedback from the public. We did that survey in which we got good feedback from the public. Our next public meeting is scheduled for August 3rd during Night to Unite, and that's when we'll reveal the results of the schematic design. I've heard all of you clearly about your concerns about how do we pay for it, and one of the things that we said is the project is not to exceed 50 million, but in the long-term planning, what has been projected is potentially 10.4 million coming from the utilities, 5.2 million each from water and from sewer, which then would reduce the necessity for a GO or a CIP bond to $40 million or less. And so looking at that, if you recall, I submitted $30.6 million in external funding requests. Sadly, we did not receive $10 million in state bonding. We still have $20.6 million out from the feds. We've received very positive feedback on $2 million in congressionally directed spending. They even contacted me and asked for the mayor's numbers to know when to congratulate him. We're waiting anxiously for that congratulatory email. That $2 million is earmarked for an emergency operations center that will become a regional hub because we have operated that way. And then that space could also be used for other things for the city, for training, as a community gathering space, those sorts of things. But ideally paid for with congressionally directed spending. We have the 18.6 million out in community project funds. I have not heard anything back and don't expect to, candidly, and that usually we hear feedback in September. And so we took the scenarios, and our finance director, Matt Selmeyer, worked with Northland to create multiple scenarios. Best case scenario, we get a lot of money. And then worst case scenario is scenario B, we don't receive any external funding and we have to borrow $40 million in a bond. So we use that worst case scenario, and this is what that would break down. So scenario B, we have, if we were to use scenario B, when you borrow $40 million, it would actually end up being 39. Do you have the number, Matt? With the 30
amount of borrowing?
39 something.
39,268,200.
Yeah, so just shy of 40 million. You get a premium on that, and in the past, like when we did the bonding for the water treatment facility, that premium was applied to potentially scope creep to be able to pay for any potential change orders. We're not at this decision yet, but my recommendation, and that's how they built scenario B, was that we use that premium and we apply it to future debt service, because then that reduces the pressure on the levy. And so that's what this principle breaks out. So the median value home, last year it was $542,000. So that homeowner has seen a projected increase in 2027 by $50,000. That's what we're expecting right now. The median value home projected for 2027 is $592,000. And so then breaking that down, the impact, now that doesn't mean that this is going to be an additional $323 on their annual taxes. That's just of their annual taxes. $323 would be used to help pay the debt service in 2028, and then it goes up over time. That equates to 89 cents a day. So here is staff's ask. We're continuing to go forward with schematic design. But if council already knows that they don't want to do this, we shouldn't waste any more time and energy, but we do need direction on what you do want to do, because this is real.
Okay, I have some questions, I guess. I'm really trying to understand the whole process and how the city chooses which type of bonding it does. And so I had asked City Administrator Tobin a question about, what concerns me is I'm glad that we're doing all the things that we're doing. And I know it's so much work, and it's giving us so much information, which I think is good to help us make decisions. But the survey for me is not convincing because of the total respondents of that survey, even though it sounds like it's a lot, because we say 20%, it's really 700 people that responded. And if 50% of the people said, we support this, that's 350 residents. To me, that's not enough for me to make a decision to spend $40 million on a municipal center. I need to have more concrete. So my question was, could we go out to a referendum and ask the community what they want to do? And I'm still not completely clear, because to me, it seems like there's two different funding mechanisms. There's a CIP funding mechanism where council makes a decision based on 2/3 vote for the bonding, or you can use GO bonds and then go out to the community. If you do the CIP route, the community doesn't have an option because it's basically council saying we have a 2/3 vote. So out of all of us, 3 of us would have to say we support it. And then if there is pushback, it'd be 3 out of 5. Did I say that wrong?
Regular majority.
Regular majority.
Okay,
Did
so
I say
I heard
supermajority?
2/3, sorry.
Okay, sorry, yeah. So with that being said, if we went that route, the community could still come back and try to do a referendum, but it would be on the community then to come back and get a petition with 5% of what our last vote was at the last election within so many days. I think it's like 30 days, maybe it's 60. I'd have to go back and look. Is it 30? Okay, thank you. And I'm struggling with that as a council member because I feel like that is not being transparent with our community. I think we're doing a great job of trying to tell people this is what we need. But for me, I need to understand that piece more, I guess. And then the other thing is that this presentation is wonderful, and I really appreciate that because it's super helpful in helping me understand. But like in comparing some of the numbers that were included, and I don't know where the numbers came from, but like in my current city that I work at, the building that I work at is 101,394 square feet. And we have 250 people working in that building. And so with that number that we see on here, that's confusing to me because as the building gets bigger, your cost goes up. And I know we're planning for the future, but the city that I currently work in, they built their building, which was a pretty expensive building. I want to say it was probably 16 million, 15 years ago. So it's very true. The costs just continue to get higher every day that we wait to do this. But their population was also 36,000. And we're only at 10. So that's another struggle I have is I feel like our population, we need this, but our population I don't feel is where it needs to be to build this really big municipal center like we're anticipating. So those are the things that I'm struggling with and trying to understand. We also have a 98,000 square foot public works building with 36,000
It's
people.
not 98,000 square feet, it's 24,000 square feet.
No, in Richfield. It's
Oh,
98,000 square feet. And that's not big enough. They need a bigger one. So like looking at our public works building, that's too small because we're at we're 24,000 square feet and we're already at 10,000 people. So I mean, there are definite needs, but I keep coming back to what our budget is and how it impacts the people in the city with where we are at right now. And that's always the thing with city budgets. And I'm not sure what it is that would make me feel better, because I don't want us to make a mistake and build something that's too small. But I feel like some of the projections on what I'm seeing in here contradict what I'm actually like living. And so that's hard for me too.
Can I address a couple of those?
Yes,
So
please.
first, and you were emailed, the attorney that serves as our bond counsel for all of our GO bonds, Gina, she responded and she said legally we can't. So I think I shared with you and for everybody else is, I absolutely would love to go to referendum. We legally can't. In fact, I freaked staff out 2 weeks ago because I emailed all of them and I said, I want to go to referendum.
Called me.
I called the mayor because I said, after I got off the phone with Councilmember Friedrich, I said, this is, I think is absolutely the right answer. And so then I called our bond counsel and they said statutorily, we can't. And they cited statute. And then there was a question about CIP versus GO.
Yep.
And the reason we can't go to referendum is because the statute says it's council's responsibility. You were elected by the body to make these decisions. That's what statute says.
But with the CIP,
There's not really a difference, and I sent the update email, and she sent with the follow-up question that Councilmember Lanterman said.
I don't know if I got that one.
I sent it to everyone about 3, I don't remember what time
It
this
was
afternoon.
later this afternoon.
Yeah, so she was very specific that there's no statutory authority for council to require a special election. And again, I'm in favor of that. I think that would be good.
I don't think we were saying a special election. I think it was
That's what a referendum is called.
tacking it onto the election that's gonna occur in
No,
November.
that's what that's the form though, is it's above and beyond the normal election. So it would happen as part of the election process, but it's statutorily referred to as a special election, a referendum item is. And so I'm in favor of that, and legally you can't because the law says in contrast to school districts, do not have the authority to do capital improvement projects like that. They're required to go to referendum. And so I didn't make the law. I wanted to go to referendum. Our attorney is saying legally we cannot. And so I don't know what your guidance would be on that, but I'd even defer to Mr. Thames if he has any other input, because you did speak with our bond counsel about that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I defer to bond counsel on matters in this area, but I did do a little of my own research. I found before I actually saw the responses from her, I was looking at the same statute she was. I was reaching the same conclusion. There are some additional AG opinions I was not even aware of that were pointed out that indicate that there wouldn't even be a basis to support the use of public funds to pay for the special election on it as well. That's accurate also. So really the process for this funnels you to the body makes the decision as to whether or not to seek the funding. The reverse referendum is the check on that, and that's an option and it's actually the statutory petition threshold is lower than it would be under the charter, for example.
To that point, so our charter says 10%, the statutory authority is 5% of those who voted in the last election. And so when we ran the numbers, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it's less than 300 people on a petition.
Right. So with that, that would be the basis for the body to say, that they wanted to have this as a part of an election. But we're not able to just dictate that as a part of the process because Statute 412 indicates you need to have authority measured in statute that allows you to do something like this. We lack that in this case, and for this particular type of project. So, unfortunately, I
candidly, some of this information that was new to me. This is not an area that I delve into very often, but educating myself, I can't reach a different conclusion. So.
Thank you.
I share Michelle's apprehension just at the impact this has on people in both directions, both impact on taxpayers as well as impact on staff, impact on people who interact with staff.
Businesses.
But it makes sense to me that this is the right level to make that decision. We were elected for calls like this. The intent is the council is close enough to the community to know and are elected on the basis of their understanding of the community's appetites and needs and desires. So if there was a viable mechanism to allow a pseudo referendum, I'm sure I would love to put this directly to the voters. That isn't a luxury afforded to us. Related to the overall affordability and costs escalating 4 to 6% a year, that is an obstacle. It is beneficial to us. I think that our tax capacity has been growing at much faster than that, twice that rate. So
13.5% for next year.
Affordability of projects will get better, and that's based on having only 3% of our land dedicated to the most efficient tax-generating sources of land use. So I would hope that in the future we might see that even improve a bit. But I think there's a valid argument for us to have, and we should be candid about it. Does it really make sense for us at a population of 11,000 to build a 20-year building when we're growing our income faster than the construction costs are rising? Maybe that's a valid argument for a 10-year option as part of these deliberations, where we build for 10 and then we get 5 or 10 years down the road and our revenue has doubled or gone up by a factor of 4, additional expenditures would be more affordable even if construction costs. That's a valid discussion that I think we should have.
I do want to point out on that first slide with the population, our 2040 comp plan projected Corcoran to be at 11,300 in 2040. We will be there in 2028. 12 to 15 years ahead of projected.
And when we say 20-year building, what population are we assuming at that 20-year horizon?
I'll get back to you. I have it.
I have some comments.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to start by agreeing with something Jay told me this afternoon, that he would have liked to have seen this project on the November ballot and that he believes it would pass. So do I. I support this project. The work staff has put into it has been serious, and the funding structure Jay walked me through is more measured than the $50 million headline suggests, with the bonding under $40 million and a meaningful share carried by the water and sewer funds rather than the levy. So my comments aren't opposition, they come from a simple idea. When residents are going to be asked to pay for something this large, they should have a say in it. And here's why I think that matters, because we expect it to pass. When a project has this much support, a public vote isn't a risk to manage. It's an insurance policy on the project's legitimacy. A campus that residents voted for is one that's defensible for 20 years against the complaint we've all heard on other projects. You never asked us. I'd rather earn this with consent than have to defend it without it. I understand bond counsel's position that a council-initiated referendum isn't available to us. I read the statute differently, as do the 2 municipal attorneys I spoke with today. But I don't think that disagreement has to be settled tonight. Because if bond counsel is right, then the petition window is the public's only direct voice on this, and that puts a responsibility on us. So I'd ask that we commit tonight to publicizing the public hearing and the 30-day petition window clearly to every household the exact same way we pushed the survey. If residents want to vote, the pass should be real, not just technically available on paper. And before we put any numbers in front of the public, I would like Jay's per household debt service modeling in writing with the water and sewer contributions and the federal scenarios broken out so that what we tell residents is precise. I want to build this campus. I just want to build it with residents having been genuinely heard. Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Councilmember Lakeman? How would you feel if we do our due diligence, and we are doing our due diligence? I mean, every other, I've lived in other cities. Usually they have 1 or 2 open houses. We are striving to try and get feedback. And we listen to those who are strongly opposed to the project, and we have witnessed those who are very much in favor of it, and then folks who are in between, and folks who change their position after having a conversation, going both directions. If we're able to get that promoted, and I just mentioned that last open house is the 3rd, and that hearing is August 13th. That's when it is currently scheduled and published on our agenda. In order to meet the referendum, the reverse referendum window prior to the election. That's what drives that. If we did not receive the petitions, so we did all of our due diligence, and we did not receive the petitions necessary for referendum, what would your position be?
If we did not receive...
So we can only go to referendum if the petition is submitted from residents to do the reverse referendum. After council approves, at the public hearing, approves to go forward with a not-to-exceed bond. That's what triggers that referendum window.
And it's 30 days, right?
Yeah, and then it's for 30 days. And so if at the end on September 12th, we did not receive the requisite number of petitioners that would trigger a referendum.
Wouldn't we've already had a vote in favor at that point?
That's what triggers the
Right,
reverse
then
referendum.
So there wouldn't be anything for us to do.
Right,
It would
I'm
be-
asking how he
it would be-
feels about
But
that.
if there was
Yeah.
a petition from residents,
Then it goes on the
and-
ballot.
Right.
right,
But the scenario is that we
What,
get 150 and not 300.
right. So I was just trying to understand that because we can do our due diligence, but the trigger for the reverse referendum is council needs to approve and not to exceed bond. Otherwise, there isn't a trigger for the reverse referendum.
I just think that the residents should be as well educated on that piece as they were with the original mailing. I would like to see the mailing replicated to educate them as to, what's about to happen if their voice is not heard.
So I respectfully request then, this additional engagement wasn't budgeted. With your permission, I'd like some guidance in order for us to use some long-term planning funds. I think this is appropriate in order to ensure that we're doing more mailers, engaging the public to send the information out as it's coming, and additional engagement. Is that?
I consent.
I would support that.
yep.
What would you want the budget not to exceed? So to put it in perspective, the survey cost us $10,000.
Not to exceed $10,000.
Okay. We won't do anything. Well, I'll come forward with a proposal, but that's enough guidance from me for the.
Do we have a consensus on council, at least 3?
I would accept that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jay, what would the overall timeline look like on this? So you mentioned there's a bonding vote we have to take.
So on the calendar, it's on the council's calendar. August 13th is the public hearing on the not-to-exceed bond. That sets the not-to-exceed amount. And part of the reason that's important is because we can adjust it. We'll find out in September whether we receive federal funding, that additional federal funding. So you can not increase it, but you can decrease it. And so then as we continue to refine the scope of the project, so we have schematic design, but we're going working towards the final design. Council is part of that process, the public's part of that process to define the scope. Between that August date and October, we'll either have gotten confirmation in September of a reverse referendum, or we're continuing with the process and we're refining it. We have to set the actual final bond date in October.
It's similar to our budgeting process.
It's
Preliminary
similar.
not to
So we do a not to exceed, and then we refine it through process, and then the final goes forward, and then that goes forward for bid.
But we haven't at that point actually approved the project. So
So
when
actually,
does that happen?
at the hearing on, the not to exceed bond sets the max that you could do. In October, when you set what the final bond amount is going to be, that's when you set the final amount for the bonding. That's essentially the approval of the project.
Okay.
So you could approve the not to exceed bond and then choose to not go forward with bonding.
Okay. And then when does the construction decision happen?
So the final detailed documents, it goes out for bid in, right now the time frame is December or January, to start construction in early spring, as soon as, when the thaw happens.
Okay.
Do we have a drawing of what it would look like yet?
That's the schematic design.
Okay.
So you'll have a new council next year.
Correct.
Some people will not be back. What happens, just exploring all the eventualities, what happens if the new council takes a different view than the past council that authorized the bonding?
So the
Bonding
bonding money
still
will already
happening.
be here.
Yeah.
And so the project is going forward.
Okay.
And that's to hit the direction that we received from council in terms of the timeline. Now, you can direct us to change the timeline. That's what I'm asking, what do you want us to do? But it's not at zero cost. So the not to exceed $50 million building, if we move to 2028, is now a $53 million building.
Can I ask one more clarifying question? So can you just explain, so with either bonding option, we can't go out to a public vote, is what you're saying, right? Like if we did go bonds,
That's what statute communicates with legal opinion from both our city attorney
so
and
it doesn't
from
matter
our
if
bond
it's
counsel.
CIP or go bonds? Is it a specific amount you would have to go out to? It doesn't matter, it could be
It's the type of
$200
the
million,
project,
and
yes.
we would still have the authority,
So
Or a school, we'd be required to.
just only if it's a school.
well, it's not only if it's a school, so the example in the email that she gave, so say for example, you wanted to build a community center. It's the nature of the business. She was very specific in the email, if you wanna,
I did see that,
yeah.
yeah.
And so she used that as an example of when you would or could. So the example that I think of near me is Chanhassen did that, but it was also tied to pursuing a sales tax.
Okay.
So they used the building of their new Ice Arena Community Center tied to a sales tax, approval of that. Sales tax was approved, project was approved by the public. But we don't have the authority on this project to do that.
Right.
Statute says that that's council's responsibility. So I did want to point out, Mr. Mayor, we did receive 2 comment cards. So
Sure.
If now's the time, if there's no. So first up, Ms. Nicole Sanders, if you could please state your name and address for the record, and 3 to 5 minutes to the council.
Thank you, Jay. Good evening, Community Council and council members and staff. My name is Nicole Sanders. I'm at 8026 Walnut Lane in Corcoran. I'm here to share my thoughts regarding the proposed civic campus project. While I understand the importance of investing in our community, I believe it would be more financially responsible to focus first on attracting and developing our commercial and retail presence before moving forward with the new civic center. Commercial development expands the city's tax base by bringing in additional property and business tax revenue. These new tax dollars would help fund essential city services and future public projects without placing such a financial burden on residents. By strengthening our local economy first, the city will be in a better position to invest in a civic center that serves the community without creating a necessary financial strain. In addition to increasing tax revenue, commercial development can create jobs, attract new businesses, and encourage further economic growth. Building a strong commercial and retail foundation now will benefit the community for years to come. As our community continues to grow, residents need convenient access to local businesses, services, restaurants, and retail opportunities. Commercial development also creates destinations to encourage residents to shop, gather, and engage within the community rather than traveling elsewhere. The current Civic Campus proposal also doesn't address the need for our fire department or community center amenities. Our city would benefit greatly from facilities that promote health, wellness, education, and social connection. Examples would include an indoor walking track to be used year-round, particularly during Minnesota's cold winter months, space for a Corcoran farmers market to provide locally grown produce and goods, which would directly support our local economy by keeping food dollars in the community, recreation and wellness opportunities that encourage active lifestyles and foster social integration among residents and are accessible to residents of all ages and abilities. A Corcoran Fire Department to provide rapid emergency response which saves lives and minimizes property damage, as well as community safety through prevention education, and also lowering home insurance premiums for our residents. These types of amenities contribute significantly to quality of life and help create a strong sense of community. They provide opportunities for residents to connect with one another, support healthy living, and build relationships that make our city more vibrant and welcoming. We're blessed to be surrounded by wetlands. However, this does create some challenges by limiting space available for development. An additional tax revenue stream the city could consider is a municipal liquor store, as many other cities have done. I appreciate that the current Civic Campus, as currently organized, is at capacity. I suggest the city consider the approach taken by the private sector and look for alternative interim solutions, such as office sharing, remote work, and putting all available spaces to maximum use. I respectfully ask the city council to prioritize commercial development before committing to the construction of a new civic center. I believe this approach is a more fiscally responsible path that will better serve current and future residents. Thank you for your time, your service, and your consideration of my perspective. And do I have any time left?
Minute, 33.
I'd like to also say I'm really grateful that I got to be here tonight. This is the first time I was able to attend one of these in person, and the things I've heard from longtime residents of the city, that people have lived here a long time, saying, don't even go, the city's just going to boss you around, they're going to put all this fear into the council, they're going to try to bully their way in to just get what they want, and I was appalled to hear the item that came before this topic. Just being in the public sector for my whole career, it was astonishing, and it was quite gutsy to put that right before the civic the civic item on the agenda, in my opinion. So I appreciate everyone's work, but yeah, this has been really eye-opening, and I really appreciate everyone's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I get your name again?
Yep, Nicole Sanders.
Thank you.
I'll email my presentation to all of you if that's
Great.
okay.
That would be great.
Thank you so much.
Next, Mr. Glenn Kraus, if you could please state your name and address for the record in 3 to 5 minutes to the council.
I'm Glenn Kraus. I live on 19908 Abilene Lane. Just a few things that were brought up as far as the mailing, the survey mailing. I did not receive one. I know a lot of people that did not receive them. So whoever you had do that survey mailing, unless you did it yourself, it did not work. I know many people that didn't get them, and some of those that did get them got them very late, too late to mail back. So that might be why your mailings were down, your responses were down. So, because I think a lot of people either didn't get it or didn't have time to send it back.
Thank you.
So, and I know there was talk about maybe doing another one. I think that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing up the 300 people. I don't think that doesn't represent Corcoran in the least. So I would love to see, I I know we talked, there's no referendum. Is this petition a thing that we could try to do as far as the community?
Absolutely.
Do we know how many votes it would take to get it on a referendum?
Less than 300, I forget the exact number. It's 5% of
So
whatever.
if I took a petition around, if I got 500 signatures, it would go to referendum?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know, because I work with Nicole, so we know each other. We're close to being neighbors. But anyways, I always thought it should go to referendum. I did not know that it could not go to referendum. So that's good. I mean, like she said, there's a lot of things here I learned tonight.
So the trigger for that, just to clarify, sir, is on August 13th, there will be a public hearing.
Okay.
And it's on the decision on a GO bond. To trigger the opportunity for a petition to put it on referendum, council has to approve a not to exceed bond amount.
Okay.
And then that would trigger until September 12th, the window.
So
Once you submit.
we need to wait
till August 13th.
till August 13th, and then it's decided if a signature will work.
And at that time too, we'll get there's some specifics about who can sign the petition. So they have to be registered voters, there's some other things like that.
About it.
And
so basically I need to attend that meeting and find out what it's going to continue.
Well, we can put that information out beforehand as well.
Okay, all right, because, yeah, if we could do the signature thing, that'd be great, because I don't think I would have, I mean, I hope I don't have a problem getting 500 signatures, but thank you for bringing that up, because I know you said it was like 50-some% said they would approve it, but you're talking very few people that turned it in, so 50-some% sounds big, but it's really not. So that's why I was upset about those numbers when I read them.
A lot of those numbers, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think 787 households responded.
Correct. And so out of the total households.
3,000.
There's 3,700 approximately.
Yep. So just FYI, that's the number that responded.
How many received them, and how many received them very late.
Yeah.
Very late.
We all.
So we were notified by some folks that they had not received it, and we were able to provide for every single person that requested one, a survey.
Personally, I did not hear about it until like 3 days before.
Okay. Yeah. It was.
That's what I'm saying. Some people heard about it way too late to even get it back in.
Yeah. It was in the quarterly newsletter.
Quarterly newsletter that everybody gets. 18 pages
in terms of the instructions of how to
unbelievable, full of information.
I think that is why though,
Facebook, a lot
which is good. I just don't think, like, I know my life is so busy. I sit down and read the Corcoran newsletter because I'm here. But if you're in the community, you don't necessarily, you're not part of that process, and so you might not see that. So I agree with what you're saying, that it's out there, the information is there. And I think that's what we're struggling with, is how do we get this information out to people?
We've also had 5 campus discussions on this.
But prior to the survey results, I talked to Nicole at one of the.
Yep.
Because they came out, the survey, I got the survey after 2 of them were already completed. So I was like, well, what the heck?
What about the next one?
Campus visits were, some of them already completed before the survey is even out. So,
Yeah, there wasn't contingent on that. There were 6 campus visits trying to meet each different pockets of the community.
At different times.
At different times. And so the survey, they were not tied together. You didn't have to go to the open house in order to fill out the survey.
And you can go to more than one open house.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
I've been to all of them.
You go, Dean.
all right, I'm just going off the top of my head, so I'm sorry I'm not very good at this. But I think that was most everything I wanted to say. I was curious to know about the referendum. You guys addressed that. So I'll just wait and come to the August one and see what happens.
And thanks for letting us know that you didn't get that. We've got your address, and we'll look into that. Why that didn't happen. I can't fix it if I don't know. So those who told me, we made sure they got them. Now I know. So thank you.
One working theory on that, it came as a postcard. I've had experiences where postcards, as handled by the mail, end up like inside catalogs. And so it's possible people could accidentally recycle them because they're tucked in other parts of their mail.
In the coupon deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we had put it out for 3 months, on social media. We talked about it every open house. If you have suggestions on other ways that we can connect with folks who don't read the newsletter or don't look at our website, I'd love to hear it, because we don't have a newspaper that is effectively going to everybody.
Could we place an ad could we place an ad in the Crow River?
Thank you, that was my
Oh.
suggestion.
But most people don't get it.
The circulation there is less than a newsletter.
Yeah.
Social media for me is like up there.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I'm open to suggestions, because we strove to mail it to every house, and we do send it was printed in the newsletter that we believe is going to every house, and if it's not, we'd love to know that.
I didn't see it, so.
Yeah, we're trying to reach everybody. If there's suggestions on how we can do better.
You know, maybe they didn't get to everybody, but, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying, Dave.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. If there's any other questions or comments for me?
If I could. I'm sitting here and I got an email from David and Susan Johnson. Address is 10198 Ironwood Court in Corcoran. And it reads, it has come to my attention that the city of Corcoran is about to consider a compensation initiative titled Longevity Pay. I would like you to understand that my wife and I are vehemently opposed to this action. It appears that this is simply an entitlement program based upon time of service and not merit. A program such as this would never be implemented in the private sector and is considered a bonus without merit. Please consider these as constructive comments and opinions regarded as necessary to assure a strong future for the city of Corcoran. David and Susan Johnson.
Thanks for sharing that, Mark.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, if you could
Jay,
forward that to
it
staff.
is forwarded to you, and I think let's move on since it's not the topic at hand, but I do appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, so then we will move on to,
So I did want to clarify, at this point, it's staff understanding to continue to proceed as we are towards schematic design, and us to sit down and share that with you as soon as possible. If you would like to visit any of the other sites, those who didn't have an opportunity to visit sites, please let me know. I can make arrangements. Both of those city administrators are friends of mine. I can get you there, and I would love for you to see, and then I could share what happened there. So if you weren't able to go, or you want to go again, because you want to go to sites that were on the past tours. But the bottom line is, as was clarified by statute, you as the decision makers, you need to be comfortable and clear on the decision, because I don't want to downplay the importance of it. But then back to this slide, this is the first of many hard decisions council is going to have to make that have significant dollars attached to them. And financial stewardship is one of our principles and values. And so if not this project, we do need to know how you'd like to deal with these other real problems, because staff doesn't have any other proposed solutions because we've exhausted them. I think Kevin said it best at the last one. We have many areas of service where we are on the verge of catastrophic failure. It hasn't happened because we have amazing people that are going above and beyond. But once it happens, I won't want staff to be blamed because we didn't have the resources we need to do what needs to happen. We're telling you what we need. And if you choose not to, that's the decision of decision makers. But I would ask that you let us know what you'd like to do as the alternative, because it's an untenable position with these competing converging capital liabilities.
Thanks for the information. I think it was a really good discussion. It helps giving me some clarity. So thank you.
okay, on to new business. I will go ahead and open the public hearing for the amendment for the 2026 fee schedule. Does anyone want to speak? Looking like a no. So I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, on to the item itself. Who's handling this one?
Kevin?
Good.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is just a follow-up to previous discussion we had probably 2 to 3 months ago related to our base fee multiplier. So essentially, it gets a little complicated with it really just associates to our base fees are spread over all of our users. And we recognized that as we continue to grow and evolve that we had applied basically a single-family residential equivalent to every property, regardless of size and scope. And so this really affects non-residential properties. And when we evaluated options that made it more equitable, we really landed on what we believe is the fairest value. And this was shared with council previously, is that it's based on the basically potential capacity of the meter. So basically the meter size establishes the base rate. And so per your previous discussion, we sent out mailings to all affected property owners and offered, to sit down with them and make sure that they understood the decision options they had. Some places could, swap out a meter to reduce some of the monthly costs if they wanted to. And so we've had a small handful of residents reach out, and I think it's been successful. We haven't had any complaints really, just more questions. And so feel good about this as an appropriate, equitable move. And again, all this stuff will keep getting refined, and at some point we will present you basically a rate study, which is kind of one of our next big action items to be able to forecast rates out into the future as we continue to take over more responsibilities as a department, utility department. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions, but this is consistent with previous council direction.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, I have a question.
Question first, then motion.
Sorry. I have a concern about the multi-residential water rate fee. It's tiered at 1,000 gallons. I'm just wondering why that's residential and why that would be different from just the regular residential, that is tier 1, 0 to 5,000 gallons.
So that's not actually, that's on our existing fee schedule, so that's not pertinent to this action, right? Are you under, your tier 1 under multi-family residential? So only the gold ones, that's in our existing one, we'll probably revisit that here at
Oh,
year end.
gotcha, okay.
So we're only making an adjustment with this action to the base fee multiplier, not the tier structure.
Okay,
So that's something we'll look at with the rate study
okay,
and have some recommendations ideally for year end. We typically do this at year end, we just had a recognition of some
gotcha.
inequities that we wanted to try to rectify sooner.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Anything else? Jeremy?
I would like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-561.
I'll second.
And then there's actually, I could jump in, there's a summary ordinance,
Yep.
if you're willing, that just
That
saves
as
us
well.
some money.
562 is separate.
Yep, I gotcha.
Yep.
So friendly amendment to add that in.
I think John just said don't
Has to be.
add it, right?
No, it can be,
It's a separate
It's a separate
Yeah.
one.
I thought if you had the 4/5, you could do it together.
Well, you can, but it's a good practice to split the vote in case there's.
I will make a
So I'm
motion,
technically right, but I'll do it your way.
I'll make a motion to approve the summary ordinance as well.
Well, let's do
We can only do one at a time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we have the motion
Sorry.
and the second.
getting late.
Any further discussion on just the first part? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now I'll make a motion for the summary ordinance.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes unanimously. All right. Under the authority of Minnesota Statute 13D.05 Subdivision 3B, the city is permitted to close a meeting for attorney-client privilege to discuss pending litigation. The city council is going into closed session for that purpose to discuss open litigation with Maple Hill MHP LLC and GBH Property LLC. We are in closed session. Ooh, that's loose. Order. And, let's see here. City council just adjourned a closed session in which the council discussed attorney-client privileged items related to open litigation with Maple Hill MHP LLC and GBH Property LLC. City council is prepared to take action to direct the mayor and staff. So I would entertain a motion to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the reviewed settlement with Maple Hill MHP LLC and GBH Property LLC on behalf of the city of Corcoran, subject to any final revisions made by the city attorney.
I'll make that motion.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are set there. And
So, Mayor, just one thing for staff reports. I thought you'd be interested. Had a really great conversation this past week. When I was on Facebook, I saw this. So up in Rockford, they had this fundraiser called Pints for the Past, and it was celebrating all Rockford farms. So I reached out to the people that were doing that and discovered that they're doing something similar for Corcoran farms. They were planning a fundraiser. I said, I haven't heard about it, so we're going to be partnering with them to help promote it. It looks like sometime in September. And they're putting together these placards. And so what I would request is clarification if this is acceptable. It would be our intention in order to put these on our website. So when I first got here, we were trying to get pictures and gather information. In 2018, there were identified 12 Century farms still operating. Some of them have closed since then, excuse me. So intent would be to put this on our website and then potentially in our park. There's a placard in the park. Apparently I'm getting all choked up over family farms. But just wanted to clarify if you think this is good use of staff time, and potentially Bonnie Mao is involved in the conversation, but the person who's actually doing the legwork on this for the Pints for the Past is someone else.
Yeah.
So, would like to know, is that good to go?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Anything for council reports? I don't have anything other than I'm tired.
Jay, could we use lawful gambling funds for that? Would that be?
It would be my goal to not spend any money.
Yeah, but.
We could.
Okay.
We could. It'd be beautiful.
Are you okay?
Just can't talk.
He'll run out of here sooner than later.
It'd be beautiful.
Yeah, Bonnie's great. Obviously, the Birchfield School and their stuff is a huge resource, so we've done much for them. And
So my recommendation would, I actually did this in Shakopee, where you print it up on a placard that's roughly 2 foot by 3 foot, and you put it on a post, and we could put that along the walking trail in Heritage Park, so that people could see those 12th century farms and the history of them as you walk through the park.
Love it.
That's cool.
But the goal, they're doing a fundraiser for it, so if they would do this part, we might even be able to get the families, because then they could potentially do a memorial bench next to it if they wanted to. It's their family name. I don't know that it would cost the city anything, other than to say you can do it.
Yeah.
You can provide us with when those are, I'd be happy to.
So I think it's going to be September 12th.
Promote it.
But as they get clarified the date, I'll make sure that we know that and we'll promote that.
Cool. Sounds good. Anything from council?
Other than a motion to adjourn.
So just a reminder, July 23rd, I sent an email about this, but July 23rd, ribbon cutting.
For the park.
For the park, so a work session, but the work session is just meeting at the park at 5:30 in order to get a group photo, in order to open up that
We
playground.
have really big scissors for me.
So exciting.
Could I make a quick request? Earlier tonight, when we were talking about the table on longevity, that information had been updated. I didn't know it was updated. I don't use iLegislate or whatever. If an update is made, can someone just say something? Because if we review a portion of the packet, we think we've reviewed it.
So the email was sent on the 23rd. So it was listed as updated information on the 23rd.
I will say, when I went back to the packet section of the website, it is not updated there.
So that's what I was running from tonight, and so I don't know if there was a lag. I don't know how to explain that, but.
If we could make an effort to just, when there's
Yeah,
significant
so
update.
when we do updates, we do send
Just an
an
FYI.
email to everybody and actually Deb or Karen spell out the information of what's been updated.
Yeah,
so
that
it's
would be
not
helpful.
ambiguous.
Yeah,
so-
thank you.
Sounds good. Other than that, everyone sees the schedule. There's a potential groundbreaking ceremony next Tuesday, I think we're all invited to. So hopefully see
St.
some of you
Therese
there.
West.
St. Therese West, St. Therese Park 2.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Pass on to your friends, folks. The Lions need volunteers for everything that's up and coming. One of the things they requested. from me to put out there. So rodeo's coming up, country days, all that stuff, check with the Lions. If
You
you
have,
need a contact, let me know, I'll
yeah.
get you a contact.
Have Dave give me a call. Would you?
Dave,
Poplar?
can do.
Update with the Lions Council had directed staff for the 2010 golf cart that we replaced to provide that to the Lions for use. That will be transferred to them tomorrow. And we're doing up just a basic agreement that we're offering it to them. They pay for maintenance, and we just let them use it.
Cool.
They will be thrilled, thank you.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Third.
All those
Fourth.
in favor say aye.
Aye. Beat me to it.
We're adjourned.
All right.